Okay, so I'm going to get started on today's webinar. Uh, this particular topic is extremely important for people that want to have careers working in law firms. Every day, I go in and I review candidates that have applied to BCG for jobs, and out of those people, if I look at 100 candidates. Generally, there's only a very small percentage of those people that I can get jobs for as a recruiter, and the reason is it's not has nothing to do with like where you went to law school. It has nothing to do with how well you did in law school. It has nothing to do with a lot of factors that are within your control, or that it has to do with the factors that I'm going to talk about right now. And it's very sad because people that want to work in law firms as associates or counsel or partners. I mean, and even partners make these mistakes, make the mistakes I'm going to talk about now that prevent them from working in law firms. You know, uh, at least the quality of law firms they want for their career. So if you make these mistakes, you'll end up not employed in the strength, the caliber of jobs you would be capable of. You won't make, as much money. You won't have access to as important work. You won't attract clients. All of these things that I'm going to talk about, and there's really not very many. I mean, this isn't a very long webinar because there's just not a ton of things that people do. But the problem is what I'm going to talk about today. The majority of attorneys make these mistakes, and these are things they don't tell you in law school. I don't know why. Maybe because I mean, I respect law professors, but their job is not telling you how to get a position and keep a position in a law firm. And so their job is to teach you the practice of law, and their job is to teach. And most of the time they didn't practice law before they taught, or if they did practice law, they left. So they're obviously leaving for a reason. So you have your professors, then you have well-meaning career services offices that can definitely help you by exposing you to positions and helping you with your resume and doing a lot of things. And there's some just really, really good career services offices, and then their intentions are very good. They're certainly not there to hurt you, and they work with getting new jobs, but when you're out of law school, but they certainly aren't telling you how to stay employed in law firms and not make the sort of career mistakes that you might otherwise be making. They just don't do that. That's not their role. I mean, if they did work in law firms, they left law firms. So it's not that they left them for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, lots of people leave for other careers, but they're no longer employed in law firms. Then when you get out of law school, you may be talking, you may look for career advice from, I don't know, if you work for a judge or something, or you take a job working in some government job or a public interest or a law firm. But if you take a job in a law firm, there's no one in the law firm that's going to advise you how to make the right career decisions. They know what they are. Every law firm that I've encountered, and I've been working with 10,000 plus law firms for 25 years. They're not going to, if you go to work in a law firm, they're not going to tell you how to stay employed in the long run. I mean, it's just, they don't do it. And you're working for someone. Their job is not necessarily to give you career advice. So people make all these sorts of mistakes that I'm going to talk about as well, and they don't really have people that are giving them advice. And then, then you have recruiters. So, there's different types of recruiters out there. All I do, and I'm going to talk about today, is keeping jobs inside of law firms. But, there's recruiters that are specialized in placing you in contract jobs. There's most legal recruiters. It's a very niche industry, very, very niche. They specialize only in kind of the low-hanging fruit, which means if you're working at a major law firm and went to a good law school, and the market for your practice area is doing well at a certain length of time, then they'll help you. But there's not a lot of recruiters that will even give you career advice, because once you get to 7, 8 years, there's no jobs for senior attorneys most of the time. So, and we have jobs, but they're, at large law firms are very rare. And so, they look at people from the big firms, the big law firms and the jobs that they have and so forth. So, what I'm going to talk to you about today, no one will tell you. No one's going to tell you, but what's so amazing is that most law firms, not all law firms, when I say most, I say 90% of law firms are looking for what I'm going to talk to about today, and how to stay, the kind of the way that they look at resumes and so forth. They understand it, but no one talks about it. And the large law firms have a very good understanding of this, and they do it instinctively, but certainly when I was working in large law firms, no one told me this. And most people will not tell you what I'm going to tell you today about staying employed in large law firms or small law firms and mid-sized law firms. And it doesn't matter, what you do. It doesn't matter what your practice area is. It just doesn't matter. I mean, law firms are looking for a certain type of person to work there. And if you don't look like that person, then they won't hire you, and they'll find someone that is, because they're businesses, and businesses just follow, to be successful, need to follow certain rules, but they just, no one's going to teach you what I'm talking about today. I don't know why. You may understand some things I'm going to tell you, but you may not, you may not understand. You may not have ever understood some of them. So, so this is an important topic because it can save your career and it can keep you, going. And I don't know why attorneys make these mistakes. I mean, they make them again at all firms, and I don't know if it's because they don't want to understand this, or because it's the information is, just not available. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So this is a fairly short webinar. It's not that long, and then after doing this webinar today, I will answer questions about the webinar, or any questions that you might have. It's important that if you're having a difficult time finding a job, or if you're looking for a better job, that you're able to ask questions, and those questions can really they can help a lot of other people, because in most cases, any questions that you have, other people would have as well. So, employers, and what I've seen again, they look at your resume, and unless you're like someone applying for a new job or so forth, what they're looking for is to understand red flags in your background, and it's going to impact the way they make decisions about you. And there's a certain type of candidate who will always get an interview, and there's ones that don't. And again, it doesn't matter what kind of law school you went to. I mean, law schools are irrelevant. It doesn't matter, the quality of firm you're at. It's pretty much irrelevant. It doesn't matter your geographic location that you're in the country. It's pretty much irrelevant. There's just things that they look for in your background that make you either employable or unemployable. And again, I said at the beginning of this that I look at a lot of resumes every day, and have been doing so for a quarter century. And because I've been looking at I mean, so many people, and I know based on experience who ends up getting jobs. I work with the sorts of people that law firms want to hire, and so I'm always looking for red flags, and I want to make placements. So obviously, willing to overlook some red flags if I think that there's other things that are good. But for the most part, if these red flags are there, a law firm, all things considered, if they have a better candidate, which they can always attract candidates, is going to hire them instead. So, today I'm going to talk about frequent job changes, career, pivots, and then I'm also going to give you strategies that you can use to address these issues. In most cases, you can, do things in your resume and have certain talking points that you can come up with in interviews if you get them. And there are ways to address these issues, but people often don't know how to address these issues, or when you're not getting interviews, they don't understand why they're not getting interviews, and it's often because of these issues. So if you have you address these issues and you apply to 20 jobs, I don't know, and if you are the one of the best applicants who addresses these issues, then you may have a chance. But if you don't address the issues, then you really won't. So here are some of the most common red flags in someone's employment history. So one of the biggest ones, is very, very common, are frequent job changes. So if you switch jobs frequently, there's all sorts of things that are the employers don't like about that. Many times when people leave employers, and it doesn't matter. Like again, it's just like if you're at an AmLaw 100 law firm and you switch jobs a couple of times in 3 years and then want another one, no other AmLaw 100 law firm is going to be interested in you, regardless. I mean, I don't care if you went to Yale Law School or whatever. It's just, it's not good. I've seen candidates that were, I mean, I had one woman that was she'd been at Sullivan Cromwell, and then she left that firm. She'd gone to Yale Law School. She'd been first in her class at like Ohio State or something, just some huge school, like 50,000 people. And then had gone out to Silicon Valley, had taken a job at another firm, and then wanted to get a job at a third firm. And even though her practice area was really in demand, I mean, people just weren't biting. So it's just across the board. I mean, if you go to, I had one candidate that had started out, I mean, this is just crazy. Like he started out at Skadden. He'd gone to Penn or something for law school, like top of his class. And then, he'd been there for like 2 or 3 years, and then had gone and done a series of judicial clerkships. When I say series, it was like, one after the other, like 1 year, one clerkship, 1 year, the other clerkship, 1 year, the other clerkship. And, suddenly, he did everything he could to get a job, but just despite his qualifications, leaving his job and then doing 4 different clerkships just made it look like the guy was kind of unstable, and he only could get a job after that in insurance defense. And I'm not the one that got him that job in insurance defense, but it's very, very sad. I mean, he just wasn't able to break out of that after that because normal law firms were no longer interested in him. He just moved too much, when you're moving, people don't necessarily, when they look at your resume, they don't know why you're moving, but they remember people that may have come into the firm where they asked them to do things, and suddenly the people got really mad, or they may have brought in people that they wanted to interview, they were working there, and those people got really mad when their work was criticized, or when they were expected to be in the office, and they became kind of negative sorts of people. And so then, they made the decision to leave. And then the next thing happened in the next place. I mean, some people, and if you are this way, you need to do your best to change. But some people are just difficult to manage. Sometimes people think that they need to be, that they know everything. They, resent, being told to do certain things. They get mad when they're given work that they think is below their pay grade. And that's just thinking about it right now. That was why this woman that was in Yale Law School working in Silicon Valley was so upset. She thought she was too smart to be given certain types of jobs. I mean, certain types of work at the firm. So, that was a reason that, people didn't know when they were interviewing, when she was applying, that was the case, but I knew that was the case because of her. And so different people are just difficult to manage. They may not, do work the way they're supposed to, or they may, who knows? But if a law firm sees frequent changes, that's what they think. They think that there could be issues with a person. So, meaning, the person's never happy. The person, is always thinks they're undercompensated and looking for more money. The person needs to be treated a certain way because where they went to law school or whatever. And by the way, this applies to partners as well. So I remember not too long ago, I had a woman that was looking for a job, and I looked at her resume, and she'd been at, she was like an eighth or ninth year associate, and she'd been at 5 different firms. And I was like, no one's going to be interested in you after you've been at 5 different firms. And she said, well, the partner, I kept moving with the same partner every time, and he keeps leaving every firm because they hire him, and he's guaranteed a certain level of compensation, and then they agree to renegotiate it, in the second year, and then he never gets what he wants, so he leaves. So, in terms of being managed by others, if you're a younger attorney and you resent being managed, you should know that unless the law firm is very small, one or two attorneys, I mean, every decent sized law firm, the partners that work there are managed. I mean, they get to the position they're in because they respond to whatever someone in authority is telling them that they need to do. They may question it to some extent, but overall, what they're doing is they will be managed, and do what the firm wants them to. And again, I see this with almost every successful partner that I work with. I mean, they say, this is what my partners want me to do, or this is what, the management thinks, this is what, this is what this, and this is what this. And, they will often, will negotiate their compensation a little bit. They'll do what the firm wants. So, what I'm telling you that, the partners at the highest levels, the biggest firms, like making, millions of dollars. I mean, they're all managed. I mean, and when they're not managed, they typically, will stomp out of the firm and stuff. And so if an employer sees that enough, then the partners, won't, other firms won't hire them. and some of the best firms may interview, even an attorney with a multi-million dollar book of business. They may interview the person 20 times just to make sure that the person will buy in to the way that the firm needs things done. I mean, yeah, it's really important to understand this. So the people that become partners in the best firms, or even mid-sized firms, or even smaller firms, are managed. And so being managed means you will defer to authority. You will do what they ask. You will do whatever is required of you. And for associates, the importance of being managed is even more important. So, if your role as an associate, even is to do what's asked of you, to be a soldier. So law firms need soldiers. They need a lot of soldiers. So, a good law firm may have 4 soldiers per partner. They need people to do what they ask them to do, the way they need it done, and to just buckle down and do it. And if you think that's difficult to do, then that may mean that if you're difficult to be managed, that maybe you need to be doing something else. I mean, you can be an entrepreneur, which is very common. You could go into some different type of legal practice, where you feel like where you don't need to be managed. You can start your own law firm, and frankly, a lot of the most successful attorneys, they go start their own law firm, and they do things the way they want to do them. That's typically, also it's kind of interesting. There's always these people that break off from large law firms or mid-sized law firms and start their own firms, and their websites are always littered with things like, we want to do things better. We want to, we realize the law firm model's broken, and we're gonna. I mean, it's been the same for 25 years. This is what all these law firms, people that break off say. But most of the time, when they break off, it's because they don't want to be managed by the actual law firm, and they resent that, and so they leave. Another thing that happens is sometimes people have unresolved personal issues. So, I know of examples of people that have substance abuse problems. I've run into this repeatedly. So, I'm not trying to, I mean, say bad things about BCG, but we've placed people before that they've gotten into the firm and had just crazy issues. And just thinking of 2 examples over 25 years with crystal meth. I mean, this one woman was being very quietly asked to leave firms that had a crystal meth problem, and the only way I found that out was because I had met one of her friends, and she had referred him to me because this is in the course of representing her, because she was because he was a graphic designer and he had some graphic design work done, and then he called me about her and just said she had this crazy problem. She kept getting asked to leave firms, and I mean, in her case, it was just unbelievable. She actually became, she started her career at Skadden. She actually became homeless and living on the streets of LA, and came into my office one day in barefoot with her friend, and asked me to cash a check that she found. I mean, it was just, and she was literally barefoot. So, people often have unresolved personal issues. I know of another attorney in Los Angeles that's started off able to get a position as a partner in a pretty good law firm. Gone to another great law school. I don't know, it was Michigan or something, and then was an alcoholic, and so that caused him a lot of problems. He was like sleeping in, he was leaving the office like at 3 to go drink every day, and it just, every time he kind of that caught up with him, the law firm would again quietly let him go, and he would find another firm, and did this for for years, and just kept moving down to smaller and smaller law firms because of these issues. And other people just have psychological issues, and that can be fairly serious, that prevent them from, working. I mean, they may, claim deaths in the family or other unverifiable, personal things, and they kind of do that wherever they go. And there was one woman in New York. That was I mean, it's actually pretty funny, but she was kept having babies. Like, so she'd have a baby like every, you know, almost once a year, and then kept having babies, and it firm, and then, so, I mean, she had then started having a lot of moves on her resume, and not because there was any discrimination, but because, I mean, she, would show up and only, so there's a lot of times people have personal issues, and those can be substance abuse issues. They can be, other issues. Sometimes, people will get involved in things with other people at work that create issues. That's one. But these are just things that that law firms are scared of when they see someone with a lot of moves. And so, the other thing that's actually the most common, and it is almost, and is kind of how bad attorneys are fleshed out. I mean, there's no like ranking system for attorneys. I mean, there's these ones to watch lists and everything that basically are, created for advertising. So a firm will get a couple people on there, and then the firm will take out an ad, and it's kind of like, so those are not necessarily rating systems. I mean, lawyers and that are moving laterally and so forth are, viewed, like their quality comes through and the way that their resume looks. So, things like if you stay at a firm a long time, that's a pretty strong endorsement that, you're likely to stay, at your next firm a long time. And it's actually true. I mean, everybody that I've ever hired, if I hire someone, I've given these examples before, but if I hire someone that's been at their last job for 10 years, the odds are extremely good that they'll stay with me for 10 years. If I hire someone who's been at their last job for 2 years, it's very, very common that they will stay at their next job for, with me for 2 years. It's just kind of how it always works. And then another thing, with frequent job changes is, what happens is, people will most often leave because they've been asked to leave their previous positions. So, if you move enough, people looking at your resume will think that you've probably been asked to leave. And so, what does that mean? So, you can be asked to leave lots of places for, because, they, and that being asked to leave often, is the same thing as getting fired. Sometimes people just get fired. But if you're asked to leave, that just means that the law firm was unhappy with something to do with your work or manageability or whatever, and they're asking you to leave. Or you're asked to leave just because your work's not good, like the quality of work you're turning in isn't good. You're missing things. You're not picking up, certain things. Your work is not on time, or you just make errors, or you're rushed, or there's just other problems with you, and so people will often be asked to leave a firm, for all sorts of reasons. But the problem of being asked to leave, and I'm not trying to be harsh here, even when if a law firm, has, I don't know, 10 associates and ask 7 of them to leave, it's always going to keep around the best 3. So, so that becomes kind of something, that, doesn't necessarily bode well for you. And then, the other thing, about being asked to leave is just, you don't want to, firms will believe that you'll, leave the next position as well. So why would they take a risk on you? One thing that happened to me, whenever I've hired people that have been unemployed from law firms, and they've come over to work for me, and they had these short moves on their resume. They would show up and like be very enthusiastic for like the first several months, and then just become like non-manageable, very very difficult to work with, undermining the business and talking negatively and all that sort of stuff. And this is the kind of person that law firms, and then not doing what's asked of them, not following procedures. And so this sort of personality is what law firms are trying to avoid. And they can only figure that out many times by the moves on your resume. You may think that one of the things that people say when they have all these moves and so forth on their resume is that just let me in and I'll get I'll get any job you get me an interview at. And that's a sign of someone that can charm people, and they can get people to like them and so forth. And that kind of, but it's all a smokescreen. It's it's not something that is likely to get them hired. I saw hate talking about Yale Law School people, but Yale Law School admits people that have like all of these like just erudite, like academic interest in writing papers. And they come out of law school and will take jobs with policy think tanks, or they may take a job with just for like 1 year in a law firm or 2 years, and then do all these things that have nothing to do with practicing law. And they'll move around from job to job for a couple of years, and then often say they want to come back to the law firm, and the law firms are just like, no way. And then law firms increasingly, like a lot of them are like, no way, hiring first years, because they just never stick around. They have all these other things, and so they realize that there's going to be job changes. So management is often attorneys, like they may not like being criticized again. They may resent structured work environments, like they have to do remote work. They may, who knows? But if someone can't be managed in your firm, then that person is kind of bringing down every other person there. So the ability of a law firm to function is based on not having people there that won't be managed. The law firm cannot be a profitable billing machine, bringing in money for the partners, and surviving and providing good client service if someone can't be managed. It's just not the way it works. I've had candidates, numerous times, that lose their jobs, for various reasons. Like, they're asked to do an assignment and they say it's beneath them, and then law firms will let them go. I had something, very crazy happen, years ago. And this is just an example of how important it is to do what's expected to you. I was at this firm, Dewey Valentine, and they had mistakenly emailed out a list of people that were going to be partners, and that were going to be deferred and everything, to the entire firm. So someone had typed in, all personnel instead of all partners, and then it sent this email to everyone in the firm. And there was a guy there that had worked in the office for like 14 years and had been, told he was going to make partner. And there was this group that came over to the firm from Paul Hastings, and the people that were made partner were from this group that had been there for like less than a year. And then this guy wasn't made partner. So he was a 14th year attorney. Very smart. I think he'd gone to, Duke Law School. He'd started his career at Latham and done, really well there. And then came over to this firm and had been working really, really hard. So he was sitting in his office like in a Monday morning after this. I think everything was sent out on a Friday. And this, partner that had made all his associates or whatever partner walked over to his office and gave him this assignment. And the assignment was something that was fairly simple that a first year would get. And he, said, something along the lines of, I'm just really unhappy today. Like, I realized that, you're kind of messing with me, giving me this. And, I prefer not to do it because, I just don't think it's right what you're doing. And the partner was literally messing with him and trying to show him that, he controlled him now and all that sort of stuff. So the partner said, okay. And then like 30 minutes later, he came back with an agreement and like a severance agreement. And he said, you can do two things. You can sign this and then walk away with this check. And then, the check probably was not, it's unsubstantial, 30,000. I don't know what it was, but he said you can either, take this check and, sign this and leave today, or you can walk out of here with nothing because, you need to leave now. And, so I think he took the check, but I mean, it just shows you that, you know, that at all levels, you need to be manageable. And I've seen so many people let go for not taking the right assignments. I've seen lots of people, let go for kind of going off the rails. When I was a first year associate, I was at Quinn Emanuel, and there was this guy that came over there and thought, as a first year associate, and thought he was just, hot shit. And he, would go lecture partners about how things needed to be done and everything. And they were, thought it was funny, because they had enough self-confidence, but they, obviously he was a huge problem. And then one day he called up a legal newspaper and started discussing a case. And this is again a guy that had been an attorney no longer than 3 months, and so based on that, they had to obviously let the guy go. But I mean, this is crazy. Like there's a lot of people that just can't be managed, and I'm sure a lot of them. And law firms will expel them, like just will expel them. Another thing that happens too with people that can't be managed is they begin costing the firm a lot of money. So they will, not be working long hours, and they will, not, I mean, they'll stop getting work. And then there'll be this period where, maybe the law firm's hoping that they quit because they're not getting any work, or, where the person is just kind of, not, giving a lot to all their assignments and turning in like the minimal amount acceptable. I was again, my second firm, and there was this guy that had worked exclusively for this partner, and then he, the partner would give him assignments, and he started like talking back and saying, "This is not right. I'm comfortable with this." all this kind of stuff. So the partner basically stopped giving me work exclusives, just stopped completely giving me work, and so did all the other partners. And so I saw this guy, I don't know, like he was walking down the hall. I saw him in like September or something of a year, and I asked him how things were going, and he said he was like swamped and he had all this work and he had to complete a summary judgment motion or something by Monday. And then we had this way where you could actually just type in someone's name and it would show you all their hours. I don't know why it was publicly available. It's an old computer system decades ago. And the guy had literally been assigned, 0 hours for 9 months. And so, they weren't letting it go because you probably don't want to get sued. But, this is just what happens when you can't be managed. And so, law firms, if you just don't do your job and, the way that they want it, and aren't just completely, um, with their way of doing business and do the work for people, and you can't be managed, that's bad. So law firms, when they look at your resume, are scared about that. And then, unemployment is, another one. I mean, it's just huge, because, the idea is, why would anybody leave a well-paying job to uh, be unemployed? I mean, most people need to work. I mean, they have student loans, they have car payments, whatever. They need to pay for the house or apartment. So, why would anybody be unemployed? And that's how law firms think. There are certain markets, like, if you're in a market where there's a high concentration of attorneys, like, so, Washington, D.C., everybody there is an attorney. I mean, it's literally like, I think it's, percentage of the, the population. I don't know what it is, like 5% or something. But, there's so many attorneys in Washington, D.C., that, there's no reason for them to consider you for unemployed. There's, a lot of attorneys in New York, and more attorneys than there are jobs. I mean, that's one reason that law firms, always, something stuck on my lip. That's one of the reasons why law firms, love being in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or, Silicon Valley. I mean, if you're unemployed, I mean, there's no reason for them to hire you. They believe that there's something wrong, like it's a red flag. There's something wrong with your background. Either you were fired for not being manageable, or or your work wasn't good enough, or you didn't do things the way they wanted to, or you were difficult to work with. All sorts of things. I saw a candidate. This is actually very sad. Well, yeah, that's pretty sad. And so he had this, great background. He, was, had gone to a top law school. He worked in a really good firm. And then he moved to Silicon Valley and taken a job in a law firm as a litigator. And the law firm told him that, and it was a really good firm. I don't remember which one it was. It was like, Fenwick or, some really good firm, and taken a job in this really good firm. And they told him that, if we have any white collar work, we'll give it for you. And he said, well, when he interviewed, he's like, I really want to do white collar work. And they said, yeah, well, we'll definitely try to give you white collar work. We would have him. So he started there. And again, this is a really smart guy. Like, he was like, hors de coif from Northwestern Law School, had, I don't know, just really good background. And so we started at this firm, and when they started saying, giving him work, and the work was litigation related, and he said, I'm not going to do it. You hired me as you hired me as a commercial, you hired me as a white collar attorney. They said, no, we told you we could do this work. He said, well, I'm only here to do white collar work, and they didn't have any white collar work. And so, so they ended up, letting him go. And he, couldn't find a job. He couldn't get another job after that happened because, I don't know, all the reasons why, but, I know that he was upset, started drinking, had a DUI, just some, serious problems, that happened after that. And literally, because of that, I mean, he spent the rest of his career as a contract attorney. And it's just because he, wasn't manageable, and then he was unemployed for a long time. Like, I think he was drinking or whatever. I mean, I don't know that he was drinking when he was in this job, but that happened. So, when that sort of thing happens, people are going to assume that you, were let go for employment issues, for performance issues most of the time, or that you did something wrong. And so law firms, when they see unemployment on your resume, they usually run for the hills. I mean, and again, in these major markets, like where there's more attorneys looking for jobs than there are, jobs, law firms aren't going to take a risk on you if you're unemployed. And that's one of the biggest, things that makes it hard for you to get another position. If you're unemployed, I mean, the strategy generally is, you need to look at, and I'll talk more about this, you need to look at smaller markets where there are not a lot of attorneys like you, and hope for the best. But, anytime I've hired an unemployed attorney from a big firm to work in our company, there's almost always been problems. And so, that is something that happens to a lot of attorneys that are unemployed. Other attorneys will just quit because they so much resent being managed that they won't work there, and they'll say or sometimes they'll quit saying it was for I don't know, ethical reasons, or they'll quit saying it was for because the morale there at the firm was really low. I mean, and then they could be talking about a firm that's been in existence for 100 years. So if you're unemployed, it does make it, it is a major red flag in your background that you need to be aware of, that law firms are going to be very scared about. And so you need to avoid, if you possibly can, being unemployed. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. You can, you can, you can, I don't know, you can keep your voicemail at the firm. You can demand that the firm keep you on the website. I mean, there's things you can do, but you need to be very careful about being unemployed. Another major one are career pivots. And so what that means is you decide to go into another practice setting. So what does that mean? So that means you're in a law firm, and you decide to go and work in-house, or you decide to take some job in the government. All these sorts of things are going to negatively impact your ability to get a job. In most cases, if you go in-house, the doors to law firms are going to close forever. I've seen in my career, I've seen that, I don't know, I can't think of an instance where I've gotten like a corporate attorney that went in-house position back in the law firm. I've tried over 25 years, I've tried with attorneys with all sorts of backgrounds. In New York, it's the same thing. And in most markets, it's the same thing. I mean, what does it say if somebody goes into another practice setting? I mean, it says that they no longer buy into the law firm what law firms are about. It's just they want to do something else. And so why should a law firm hire them if they're going to if they're going to try to do something like go in house again? The person left the law firm world to do something else, and therefore they made a decision about what they thought they needed to do. They obviously didn't like the law firm. Law firms, by the way, I mean, they work for paying clients. There's a certain level of quality of work that needs to be done in order to keep the paying clients. And when you go in house, I mean, who knows what you're doing? I mean, law firms don't know. They can't measure it compared to they know what it means to be, a corporate attorney at Jones Day, but they don't know what it means to go in house with Motorola in Ohio. I mean, they're Chicago. They just don't know. So that just, it completely, in most cases, obliterates your career. In a law firms will just conclude that, you're not committed to that practice setting. You're going to leave again. And so why would they hire you? Why would they hire someone that's in-house when they can hire someone that's already in a law firm? And by the way, I mean, I'll just kind of bring this up as a cautionary tale. Attorneys who go in-house, it's crazy. I mean, I talk to them every week, and they go in house, and then all of a sudden the company implodes. Very, very common. But they go in house, and they lose their job because the company is going through cost saving measures, and their costs. They lose their job because a new general counsel comes in, and they don't want to have that person as general counsel anymore. They lose their job because a new CEO is appointed. He wants to bring, or she wants to bring in her own team. I mean, it's just ludicrous. And if you think it's hard to get a job in house when you're working in a law firm, it's even much more difficult to get a job in house when you lose your job or you're trying to get another in-house job, because in-house employers prefer younger attorneys that have current skills, that are willing to work hard, and that don't become experts and kind of pushing off work to other people. So any type of career pivot that you may enter in, you may do where you're doing something else, is just it's very, very risky, and in almost all cases, you're not going to be able to go back to a law firm again. So these are major decisions. Like, you don't realize it. I mean, a lot of times you're in firms and you think it's a cool thing to do to go in house or into another position, but it just doesn't work. There's other examples: choosing to go to teach at a law school for a few years. Obviously, that was something else you were interested in. Sometimes it's multiple clerkships. So, maybe one clerkship early in your career is okay, but, going and doing two clerkships, after having 2 years of experience or something, isn't going to be looked on, favorably. They're just going to think you don't want to do what you want to do, and you're going to go do something else. And why would they hire someone that wants to do something else compared to someone that's, going to be, that's going to, stay in a law firm? So, these pivots, I mean, people make them all the time. They make them not realizing like the devastating, impact they're going to have on their career. I mean, I see the most frequent resume that I see is someone's gone in-house, and then they got another in-house job after maybe a year, sometimes, or they lost their first in-house job and they've been unemployed for 6 months. I mean, these are like dangerous decisions. And so, you need to be aware that anytime you do this, you're closing down, the potential to work in a law firm. And, just a few words about, why I think that, you should work in a law firm. I mean, law firms are just incredible for what they provide. So, you go to a law firm, it takes about 5 years to learn your practice area. So, that's, just you need 5 years of training most of the time. After you get 5 years, you begin, being evaluated, to move up to the next level based on your work. But even if you're not moving to the next level, you have the opportunity to go develop business. And how do you learn how to develop business? Well, most people just figure it out, but you need to develop business. And so when you develop business, those clients become something that will support you regardless of where you go. You can move to other firms of those clients. You can expand your relationship with those clients and get more work from them. And it can be with you throughout your career. And you can go to different law firms. Law firms will take a percentage of your billable work, but for their overhead and so forth. But I mean, that's the career, and you can do it until you're, in your 70s or whatever. And people do. I place people that are in their 80s that have multi-million-dollar books of business. So you have a lot of opportunity when you're in a law firm, and you're basically in business for yourself because you have clients and the law firm's giving you a name and it's giving you access to associates and paralegals and secretaries and office space and all these things. But you have a real advantage if you stay in a law firm because you can do it for the rest of your career, and the longer you do it, the more of an expert you'll be in your practice area, the better attorney you'll be so there's just all these benefits that people don't realize. But the biggest one is you're in business for yourself, essentially. I mean, you certainly have to do work to a certain standard and follow management firm wants and stuff, but it's a really awesome opportunity. And you can also start your own law firm. I see people do it all the time. I talked to a firm, I don't know, Monday, that was started by this guy that left a firm after like 6 or 7 years and got all these insurance companies as clients. And now he's got, I don't know, like 40 attorneys working for him. So, it's a really good opportunity. And so you should be aware that, if you make these mistakes, you can shut down that opportunity that could be with you for, 40 more years. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a good career. If you're in a practice area you like, and you want to continue practicing law, which presumably you do because you went to law school. So that's one of the reasons that I kind of promote this. So there are ways to address frequent job changes. And there are some ways that actually can work for you that I've seen that people have done with stunning results. So one thing I saw sometimes attorneys will get hired by only get hired by a certain type of firm. So I knew a guy that I think he'd gone to Stanford Law School, and he had gotten a summer associate job at a good firm, like not a great firm. He hadn't gotten a good job because he didn't interview well. His grades were near the bottom of his class at Stanford, and he just didn't have a lot of self-confidence in himself, and so he wasn't able to get as good of a job as he should have, during his second summer. And so when he got to this firm, he was mad. Most of the other attorneys at his law school had gotten good jobs, and so he didn't apply himself. He felt like this wasn't that great of a firm, and so he didn't have to apply himself the way people did at other firms. And so, I mean, the way he would have had he been at a better firm. And so he didn't get an offer at the end of his summer, and then so he graduated from law school, and he didn't have a job. I think he did get a job, but it was not at a great firm. It was like 10 attorneys or something. That was the best he could do because he didn't get an offer. And again, you need to get an offer. If you don't get an offer, it says something about your performance. And here it did. So, that was kind of the issue with him. And so he didn't get a job. And then he, with a firm he liked. And then so he took the bar and he failed the bar the first time, and then he took it again and failed again. So he, lost, this job that he'd gotten, and then he took the bar the third time and passed. But again, he's got a job at a not that great of a small firm. Well, he from what all the stuff that happened to him, he became very, very motivated. He realized that his survival was on the line. So when he got his job at the first firm, the next firm, he, worked really long hours and did the best work he could. And then after a year or so, he, had enough confidence to apply to another firm to get another job, and so he got a job at a better firm. And so he continued these moves like every few years, and ended up eventually, getting a good sized book of business, and not huge, but I mean, 1 or 2 million, and then got a job at a, very, very good am law firm as a partner. But, what happened to him is his resume, even though he had, several moves, it showed like this, increasing, quality of firm, like moving up to better and better firms. And so these were not just like sideways and down, they were up. And so, when your resume can show like upward movement, that and the fact that he had business and everything, that can be very powerful. And law firms like that. I mean, one of the biggest things that happens when I'm able to get involved in placements in our company is I will always portray the person, getting a position at the next firm is something that is just like destiny. Like, they have all the skills like that are appropriate. It's a move up. It's the position they've always wanted. And so that actually can help you a great deal. So, upward mobility is just really, the most important thing, and something law firms like to see. So, big law firms like it, you can say, well, I'm used to working with smaller companies that aren't public. I really want to do work on behalf of public companies, and that would be something that law firms buy into. Like every law firm wants to reward persistence, and someone that is able to move to better and better things, because the idea would be that this law firm should hire them because this person is so motivated, doing such a great job, that the next step for them is really going to be working for a great law firm, because that's that's where they should be. They've outgrown where they're at. And they're trying to go they need to be someplace better that's going to challenge them. So I had another candidate the other day, and he was a great candidate. He went to, he went to, where did he go? Like University of Minnesota or something like that. And he'd done well there. He had a strong grades, and, done well in college, and was very likable, very, very, humble. And he'd gone to work for a firm that did insurance defense. And there's nothing wrong with doing insurance defense. He actually was quite happy with the job, but he was signed up to receive emails or something from BCG about jobs, and he had applied for a job doing like product liability, for a larger firm, and product liability is not insurance defense. It was product liability and mass torts is not that, and so and he was very selective. Like, I probably sent him like 20 firms to apply to, and he only applied to the one that was product liability, nothing that was insurance defense. And so I was interviewing him, and his whole story was like, I wanted to get away from insurance defense. I love the people where I'm at. He'd been there like 4 years. I really like the people that where I'm at, but I really want to do product liability and mass torts. And then he said, he had nothing negative to say about where he was at, but he said that, this is something that I want to do. I want to get access to larger clients. I want to be able to spend more time on different files. I want to, really, get experience, working for more important, clients. And I thought that was great. And then he said, something that I thought was really powerful. He said, my father's best friend growing up was a partner at this firm, and he always spoke very highly of it. And it was always a place where I wanted to work. And this partner retired a year ago, but would it be okay to bring up the fact that I always admired the firm because this partner always said really good things about it, and I grew up with him. He's one reason I became a lawyer, and I was like, yeah. So that sort of way, if you can highlight something like that, like there's this great connection, and you have a real desire to be at that firm, and there's some sort of way that you're connected to it that other people necessarily wouldn't be. That's huge. Like, why wouldn't a law firm hire someone that's always wanted to work there? Why wouldn't a law firm want to hire someone that has worked really hard and done a good job where they're at, and now wants to get into a better firm? And this is what law firms want, because if you're moving up, then that's much different than just needing a job. I mean, if someone just needs a job, like there's all sorts of questions that arise. Like, is this person doing a good job or not? Is this, what's the problem with this person? It's a very interesting fact that I'll bring up, and I think it's quite powerful about when you apply laterally to firms. So most of the time, when people are applying for jobs, they will apply to jobs in the market that they're in. A lot of times people will select Washington, D.C., which this probably should be the subject of another webinar. They think that you can wave into Washington, D.C., and therefore they should apply there and they have a good chance of getting hired. That's like the farthest thing from the truth. I mean, there's more than enough attorneys in Washington, D.C., so why would they hire someone from another state or whatever to work there? But but most people, when they're applying to jobs, they apply to jobs locally, like where they're at, and they actually, their percentage of people that get interviews when they're applying to firms in their own market is actually lower than people that are applying to firms in a market where they grew up, or in a market where their spouse grew up. But that type of move, like if you're moving from I don't know, Texas to Oklahoma, or Chicago to Texas or whatever, when you're moving to your home market, like someplace you're from, that's actually much easier. Like it's one of the biggest job search secrets there is. Like if you're from if you're from, you're working in New York and you want to work in Detroit, where you grew up or whatever, those sorts of moves are, with the exception of like moving back to New York or someplace, those sorts of moves are actually much easier because law firms have no reason but to question your performance, or or is there some reason like that you're moving because you're not manageable, or you're switching jobs because you're having problems where you're at? When you move to your home market, like you have a much better chance. I mean, I have things happen that are just crazy. Like I'll have an attorney that maybe, I don't know, they could be in most random market like Chicago, attorney in Chicago, and they're working in a firm there, and they're trying to get a job. and they applied to 30 firms and no interviews. And then they decide to also apply to firms in Seattle, where they're from. And all of a sudden, like they get 10 interviews, and it's a harder market to get a job in because there's, I mean, I don't know, there's not as many jobs. And so that, you would think, so why do they get more interviews? They get more interviews because they believe that the person's going there because they want to be near their family. They're going to stay. They have really good reasons for being there. And so law firms always want to help people that are trying to go home. I mean, more so than someone that's just, moving around. So how do you explain, let me just see here. Other ways of explaining away, job changes. So, one of the things that I said earlier is you can explain away different job changes by, moving up, which I think is the best way. But there's other factors that are very, helpful to explain. One of them that's very powerful is that you move with a firm. I mean, you move with a partner. Like if a partner takes you to a new firm, maybe that's one or two. Sometimes the partner will move multiple times. That's actually a good statement in terms of the quality of work you do. So that's one way. But another big one can often be the firm you're in losing clients. That's a good one. You can just say that work slowed down and they let me go. They didn't have the work, and that may be believable to some firms. But again, I just want to be really clear with you. When you're at a firm, I mean, you need to like really perform. I mean, you want to be like among the highest billers. You want to be the most available for work. You want to just, be really someone that they don't let go because if you are let go, there are always going to be all these questions. So, you can bring that up, but, it is appropriate to bring up that work slowed down at your current firm if you absolutely need to explain a move. I've had several candidates recently have lost jobs because of real estate slowed down. Real estate slowed down because interest rates went up, and so because interest rates slowed down, people, candidates, were let go from firms, and it was, it's been pretty traumatic and bad. So and people that have lost their jobs can explain, that in that way. There was one firm, I think it was in North Carolina, or a couple firms in North Carolina that let go, some associates, and so in both cases, I was able to get interviews for those attorneys. But what I learned in my discussions with them were that partners had a sit down with one of them, saying, you don't seem as dedicated as other people. Like you need to really be all in this, and you don't seem like that. That was what happened to one candidate, and then another candidate, did the same thing, had the same kind of personality issues. Like he thought he was just like the greatest thing to walk the earth, and reflected that when he was in law firms. It became hard to assign work to. So if you go into interviews, and you can get interviews, I'll tell you how, but if you go into interviews, you need to be very careful about how you portray yourself, and act, like that was the only thing, or they let all the associates go. I don't know, but that sort of thing. One of the ways to get around any of this, and to make sure that you're employable, whether it's in a large law firm or a small law firm, is to make sure that your practice area is consistent. So here's what's important to understand. So law firms, when they're hiring people, and so these are things that kind of can offset, having frequent job changes. Law firms, when they're hiring people, are hiring specialists. So they do not want people that look like they're doing five different things. And this, by the way, is one of the most major things that I look at when I'm looking at resumes. Like if I see someone who isn't doing like one practice area, like they're proud that they're doing unrelated practice areas like litigation and trust in the states or something, then I can't work with them. I mean, a law firm, and this, by the way, is, you need to understand this with your resume. I mean, I can give you all the resume advice in the world, but if you don't do this, it's going to make it difficult for you. So you need to basically choose a practice area and just focus and do that. I mean, the more you focus, the more of a benefit you're going to be to employers, because just think about it from the standpoint of what an employer wants. So if you had I don't know, some serious stomach disease or something, you would go, maybe it was cancer, you would want to go see a doctor that was an expert in cancer, not one that held himself out as someone that was also a psychiatrist and different types of doctors. You would think that was insane. And so do law firms. Like they're hiring people that want to do one thing and are doing one thing. And when they have an opening, you should look at, if you go and look at all the openings on BCG or all the openings on some job site, they're all going to be looking for something, someone that does one thing. I mean, if they need a trademark attorney, they need a trademark attorney. They don't need someone that does, trademarks, corporate related work, all these different things. So if you think that listing all sorts of different things you've been exposed to on your resume is a good idea, like because you're proud that you've done five different types of practice areas, and that's really going to benefit an employer. There are exceptions, like some small law firms will have people that are jacks of all trades, and they may be looking for smaller. They may be looking for attorneys that do multiple different things, and they're typically in small markets. But you may find a firm like that, but in most cases, law firms are looking for specialists. And when I say law firms, I say pretty much every law firm. If you look at a job posting, they're only looking for people to do one thing. So if you say you do all sorts of different things, then law firms aren't going to like that. I mean, you wouldn't like it either. Like you would want someone that was trained in one thing if you were running a law firm. So, one of the ways to make your resume very attractive is to choose a practice area. And then once you choose that practice area, make sure that your resume just talks nothing about that. And if you haven't done that, like at your first two firms or something like that, then you basically need to just list say you're at the firm and you're an associate. I mean, that's really, the best thing you can do, because that's what people are looking for. You just need to look very consistent. And if you have a consistent history, so, say a law firm needs, an eighth-year associate doing, I don't know, food and drug law, then, if you talk about the fact that you've done food and drug law at five different firms, well, the law firm is, not getting a lot of applications for food and drug law attorneys. So they're going to be, very, very interested in you if you have that experience. But if you don't, then, and you've done 10 different things, they're not going to be. But if you have that, then they're more likely to be interested in you, despite all the job changes. So that really is something that law firms take seriously. I've had instances recently of firms, one firm in New Jersey, another one in New York, New York City, where it was the same job. It was like it was insurance. It was insurance defense, and I had like a 14th year attorney that had been at like six firms or something, but that's all he did, and he did trials and all this stuff, and there were a lot of firms who were interested in him. The same thing with the law firm in New York. I've got another one in Chicago that's looking for insurance coverage, which is a great practice area to be in. I mean, there's a lot of demand for it. It's recession proof. I mean, but they're looking for a very senior attorney, and the first firm they interviewed, the person that had been at several firms, but he had nothing but a focus on that practice area. And then, continuous improvement is very, very important. Not everyone has continuous improvement. I have an attorney that recently got hired at a major law firm in Los Angeles, and I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, the job was at paying over $250,000 a year, and this person was from an accounting firm, which is very, very difficult to transition from an accounting firm to a to a law firm. But this guy had really worked hard. He'd gone and got an LLM from NYU and tax. He'd continually gotten I don't know, different titles and stuff at the accounting firm he was at. And, so he really did his best to improve his knowledge base. Right now, well, not as much now, but a couple of years ago, like there was a practice area, called, privacy, data privacy and that sort of thing. And a lot of people that wanted to get into that, that might have been doing a little bit of work, went and got this certification. But anybody that's improving is really valued. There's, you can, as an attorney, like if you're very interested in your practice area, you can, start doing all these things like giving talks and joining associations and getting on the boards of these associations and all that sort of stuff. So you can start doing that and getting, starting, looking very, very good to employers by becoming a really dedicated looking person in your practice area. And very few people do this. I honestly don't know why, but if you were out there, joining associations to, become part of something bigger, and then if you were out there, going and writing papers and giving talks, and that goes a long way. I mean, it's on your resume, and it makes it look like you're very, very dedicated to your practice area. So looking that way will often offset, any job changes and things on your resume. And of course, bringing in business is another big one. Like if you're able to do that, so all this sort of improvement, can really really make a big difference in getting employed. And if I see a resume and the person has is focused on the practice area, and they look like they really are excited about what they're doing, that will make the person actually quite employable, even with a lot of moves. So, career pivots, are also, something that's dangerous. I mean, again, career pivots are things like going in-house or, doing things along those lines, and or going to a different practice setting. Sometimes, explaining them, can be, positive if you do it right. You can often talk about, when you're, going in-house, you want to understand things from a client's point of view. It's difficult to believe that, but if you go in-house and the position is, very well aligned with your practice area, then that can be good. It can, I've seen, people, for example, in healthcare law, go to work for a hospital association and be very well, or in a hospital chain, I'm sorry, and be very well received when they want to go back to law firms. I've seen, people, go into an accounting firm to do I don't know, like, some sort of to do like ERISA, which is employee benefits work, and get a lot of expertise there, and come back and succeed. But most of the time when you go in house, the best way to explain that move is going to be something that enables you to focus on your on your practice area, become more proficient in it. If you don't become proficient in your practice area, then that can hurt you, and so you need to really look like you become more of an expert in your practice area when you move in house, and that's just goes back to the point where it's important to be focused in your career. I mean, in your practice area, not be doing a lot of different things. That's good. And then people will go do clerkships, and that can often be explained. Just wanting to work for a judge, and that is very can be very aligned with being a litigator. But anytime you make a decision to go in-house or some other practice area, it can be very, very difficult to transition back. Some of the times, I mean, I see all the time, I see lawyers, will, well, anyway, I mean, you need to be very, very careful with making these moves, because it's very dangerous, and people don't understand sometimes. So, if you can elucidate that you were doing nothing but that practice area, you look like someone very, very committed to that practice area. You're continually, getting out there and the community in your practice area, and that can be helpful if you move to another practice setting. Um, People will often go teach, and they'll teach courses. Like a corporate attorney might go teach corporate law or tax law or something, or whatever, and then want to move back. And it's pretty much impossible for an attorney that goes to work for a for a uh, law school to come back. One of the things that people can move back for, and I'm just kind of telling you different career decisions that work. One of the most common career decisions that actually works really well, you can go into like the U.S. Attorney's Office and become a prosecutor, and then go back to major law firms and become and do white collar work for them. So that's very, very common, and that works. There's absolutely no issues with doing that and wanting to come back. In most cases, depending on the size of the market, and then of course going into the district attorney's office and prosecuting criminals. You can go back into a law firm doing criminal law, but any type of move that you make that's kind of not in a law firm, there needs to be a benefit for a law firm to bring you back. It needs to align very, very closely with what they need. And it usually needs to be a rare type of experience that will make you a better attorney in that practice area that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in a law firm. And then educational enhancements, that's fine. I mean, that can help you as well. Things like LLMs and tax law can be good. There's LLMs in education law, there's LLMs in ERISA, there's LLMs in healthcare law. And people that go do that, it does show a level of commitment to your practice area. So, in most cases, LLMs aren't a good idea. But if you're in a practice area where there's not a lot of people like you, it can be very, very positive. So there's often nothing wrong with going to get different educational enhancements. Another one that is very well received is if you're a corporate attorney and you go get an MBA. Law firms like that. So you may have moved like 3 times or something in 5 years, and then go get an MBA, or decide you're going to get an MBA right before you're losing your job or something, and that can help you as well. And then, whatever you're doing, you just need to make sure that it looks like your skills are transferable to a new firm. So the only way that's going to work is if you're focused on your practice area, and whatever you're doing at the next place is going to help you be an expert in something. And there's all sorts of jobs out there that people get that potentially could get them back in the law firms. I mean, they go into private equity, they go doing like private securities offerings for, for a, for some place and, in-house, it gives them a very good experience. So if your experience is very focused, then law firms are going to like it, and it's not going to really present a lot of problems for you to get a new position. But that means if you apply to enough places and that sort of thing. But again, anytime you go do something else, you need to make sure that you talk about the fact that you look on paper like someone who's actually a stronger attorney than others that may have not gotten that experience. You need to be very, think very carefully about, moving and getting relevant experience. One thing that's, that comes to mind is in Los Angeles, where I live, near a city called Thousand Oaks, and there's a big company there, Amgen, and they do all these like very complex patents and things involving drugs, and so there's a lot of attorneys there. I don't know, there's like 30 or something that do patents there. And when I worked with attorneys there in the past, I have that experience. If there's a job for a patent attorney that involving these drugs, then similar types of drugs, then the law firm will be interested. So when you're unemployed, like what do you do? The first thing I want to say that just about being unemployed, that I think is just insane. Like when I talk to people that are unemployed, I'm often like just amazed at why they're unemployed. I mean, that they stay unemployed for any length of time. It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't understand why people stay unemployed. And but the reality is that if you are unemployed, like you don't understand like the market and what to do. So a couple things. So the first thing is, and this is, I don't like saying this, but an attorney's job needs to be able to represent clients, but also represent themselves. So if you're representing yourself, I mean, the first thing you need to do is you need to make a case for yourself. And that means doing the things that I'm talking about, meaning making sure your resume looks like it's focused, and doing your best to not remain unemployed for a substantial length of time. But here's what I just think is completely crazy. And and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not saying anything negative about you. But if you're an attorney and you're unemployed, I mean, there are I mean, just in the BCG database, and we don't know about anywhere close to every firm. And we have like 35,000 law firms, and it's probably more. I mean, it's there's 35 law firms that we contact looking for jobs and so forth, and but 35,000 law firms, and then if you were not just to look at the law firms in our database, in our law firms, I mean, we've collected them over 25 years, but even that, like we have these huge holes in our database. And one of the biggest holes is if you search Google and you're looking for like a labor and employment law firm in, I don't know, whatever market you're in, Las Vegas, Reno, Sacramento. I mean, you're going to find a very large number of firms if you just search Google. Like, I mean, you may find 150 in Sacramento. You may find 500 in Las Vegas. I mean, this is how many people there are with little law firms and big law firms practicing in your practice area. It doesn't matter where you're at. And so, I'll just tell you what I don't understand. And again, there may be some Anyway. But what I don't understand is that I can take any candidate, and it doesn't matter like how long they've been unemployed. I can get them positions with anybody. I mean, it doesn't matter who they are. Now, it's not to say that they'll not go into interviews and not do well, and I can't, do my best to control that. But pretty much anyone, any attorney out there that I represent, which all it is someone that's focused on their practice area, and if they're focused on the practice area and they don't have too many moves, then of course I can work with them. And why wouldn't I? I mean, people are going to hire them. But if you take any of these attorneys, and if the person wants to work in Sacramento, and you apply them to 200 firms there, law firms are businesses. I mean, they're going to hire people to do the work. I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, if they need people, why wouldn't they bring in someone? Because that person can bill hours and they can make them money. So, there are law firms all over the country. I had one woman that had lost her job in Los Angeles in a decent sized firm, but she was only like 6 months into her job there. I shouldn't have represented her because I only represent people generally that have at least 1 year of experience and preferably more. By the way, I mean, you're marketable. Most marketing have 2 to 5 years of experience. That's just how it works, because you know what you're doing, and law firms, can give you work to do without the threat of you wanting to become a partner. You're going to work hard and all these different things. But this woman had lost her job. She was a corporate attorney. And she lost it because she did something bad. I don't remember. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was just like a dumb career mistake. Like, um, you know, I don't remember what it was, but she lost her job. And she was sitting there in LA and had worked with 5 or 6 recruiters, and no one got her any interviews. And, so I started working with her. And, again, if you stop looking at the AmLaw 100 law firms and the firms on every list, I mean, there's, hundreds of law firms just in LA that have corporate practices. So I worked with her on those, and I got her a bunch of interviews, but not a bunch, but couple, 3, 4, something. But what really happened is when I opened up her search because I wasn't confident that someone with 6 months of experience could get hired as a corporate attorney in LA. So I opened up her search to Middle America, just Milwaukee, Wisconsin, these kind of places, and I mean, she got like 18 interviews or something. I was like overwhelmed. Like, why am I getting all these interviews? Like, what the hell? And the point is that by applying to law firms that don't have openings, there's no competition for those jobs. And just think about what you would do if you were a law firm. If you had the work and they could hire somebody like you and make money, why wouldn't they hire you? So there's absolutely no reason not to. There's no reason to be unemployed for any length of time because there are so many places that will hire you. I mean, it's just complete insanity. Like I just don't understand why people don't understand this. Because if you're an attorney and representing yourself, then you need to go out and you need to find all the places that could be interested in you. I mean, it's very simple. And so, but most people don't do that. I mean, most people think, oh, I should only apply to firms with openings, and that means you're going to you're going to be in competition as an unemployed attorney with every other attorney that has jobs. So, I just would really want to stress to you that you need to only worry about you know, being unemployed for a very short length of time if you're applying to enough places, because this is, something that works. Now, most recruiters, none that I know of, would go so far to try to find you a job. If a recruiter is doing that, then then they can get you a job, and that's as a recruiter. That's as someone charging an employer a fee to hire you, which is not insubstantial. So you can always get a job, and if you're unemployed, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, as long as you have a resume that's focused on a practice area, you can get jobs. I mean, I've got a candidate right now that's been unemployed for a year and a half. And not only that, but he's much older. I think he's in his late 60s. And but I helped him apply to 500 plus firms, and he's gotten multiple interviews. So that's just how it works. Like if you apply to enough places, you're never going to have to worry about these gaps. You're going to get jobs, but you have to take care of yourself and just get out there and do it. And this is a warning for anybody if you're ever unemployed. I mean, the odds of an attorney, by the way, getting fired over the course of their career were pretty good. I mean, I think most attorneys have been fired, at some point in their careers, and you learn from it and move on. But if you're ever fired or you're ever unemployed, you just need to go all out and get a job. So. No, I mean, stay professionally active. I mean, that's fine. But I don't think that this slide is really as helpful as it should be. You certainly want to, look like you're professionally active, but there's really no reason to do all this. Your whole job, everything you do should be trying to find a new job and applying to places that don't have openings. Because if you do, you'll get a job. So, I see this all the time. I have this one woman that was in Atlanta, and she had been unemployed for 6 months earlier in her career, like 1 year in her career, 1 year into her career. And and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I've been going, to professional meetings and bar association things." And I thought it was absolutely crazy. And she's someone that went to like Duke Law School or something. And so I got a hold of her, and she said she'd applied everywhere in Atlanta, and that she felt like she was blackballed there. And it was basically none of these other big firms were hiring her because she was unemployed, and they could hire people that were employed. So I got a hold of her, and I just marketed her all over. California. I was in, at that time it was the only market I was working in, and got her a very good job. Got her several interviews. One of the interviews, I mean, her self-esteem was so low that she started crying. And I was close with a friend that told me about this. But anyway, I got her a great job in Silicon Valley, working for a very good IP firm, and she developed this expertise in this certain type of software contract. And so this firm actually ended up going out of business. It was, I think it was like Penny and Emmons, which is an old New York firm that had. Anyway, so then after that firm went out of business, she had this great skill doing this stuff, and opened up her own firm doing it. It's enormously successful. But the problem is she was doing research, and she wasn't professionally. I mean, she wasn't applying to enough places, and so she needed me to do the work, and I did. But the point is that you need to you need to apply to a lot of places, and so that's important. So here's the employment perspective. I just want you to understand this point that being stable outweighs a lot of these other factors related to hiring and training new employees. I mean, think about it from this point of view of an employer. So if you're stable, then the law firm is going to be willing to invest the resources, of course, in hiring you, bringing you on, and training, meaning, exposing you to different files and things, and then also, then the cost to to them of bringing you up to speed on things with new clients, which I have to, write off a lot of times. And then also, the fact that you may become someone working and the client becomes familiar with who you are. And because of that, if you were to leave, that can cost them a lot of money. So I just want to tell you a little bit about some of the cost of this. So there's a cost of turnover to law firms. Financially, very can be very bad for them because it can undermine their client relationships, because all of a sudden, if you're working for a client or doing some work for the client, a new person shows up, or they, or or they, I mean, and they doesn't look good to the client. Also, when you leave, it costs a lot of money, in terms of time and everything to replace you. So, HR needs to go out and find, resumes from recruiters and from, different sources, or advertise, and they need to do that. Then new candidates need to be interviewed. That takes time. They may need to be, flown in or whatever, and it takes attorneys time to bring, new people in. And so, law firms are just very nervous. I mean, they don't want to hire someone that's going to leave. And so, and the other thing is the morale. So every time, someone leaves a law firm, the attorneys that are there, are in a position of, that maybe there's something wrong with our firm. People, maybe we should leave too. And that's what happens. I mean, other people will leave when someone leaves. So, if they bring in someone that they think is going to leave, then that's very dangerous. I mean, or someone that's got attitude problems. That's very dangerous. And so, all these things are going to be, something that the law firm is going to, be very afraid of if they hire you, and you leave or don't work out. I mean, there's a lot of cost. I mean, it's not like a minor cost; it's like a major cost, because if you leave, like, there's work not being done, so they're losing money. Other attorneys think, so it's just, it can be devastating. It can take, months, a couple months to hire someone. And, and then law firms are also under pressure to hire people that won't leave. And so, what does that mean? That means that, if a partner, if the law firm hires someone that's bad for a partner, doesn't do good work, then the partner is going to think, this law firm isn't, serving my needs, and maybe I should look for someplace else. And that could cause the law firm, millions of dollars. So, the other thing I've said is just, the clients want to have the same person. If you're a contact, they want to have the same person. If you leave, that's not good. So, it doesn't look good for law firms when that happens. The biggest thing is that, every time you leave a job, you're not going to be as attractive to, other attorneys that haven't moved. So, these are just some steps that I recommend if you're moving a lot, and you're not going to get interest from a lot of, large firms or well-organized firms. If you move a lot, any firm that can attract a lot of applications to its jobs, either because of how much it pays or whatever, the highest paying firms will always get a lot of applications. And so, if you move, if you made at least a couple moves, you will, in a short period of time, that whole world will just close down to you. I mean, not only that, but, recruiters won't be interested in you. Like, it's not going to work for you. But smaller firms will. So any firm that doesn't have as easy a time attracting applications will be very interested in you. Why wouldn't they be? So, it's often a good strategy too, by the way, to try to go to work for with a smaller law firm, if you lose your job in a practice area, they may not be doing well, and then go back to larger law firms later. I had one instance that was very instructive about something that happened in our company, years ago. This is a story about targeting smaller firms. So when the recession of 2008 hit, it was like a nuclear bomb went off. I mean, the law firms in places like New York City that laid off all these corporate attorneys. I mean, there was just nothing going on, and the same thing was happening in Chicago and other markets around the country. Well, so I had an office in New York, and I told the recruiters there that they needed to start sending people to smaller markets, like some place Long Island, and just in the smallest the suburbs of outside of New York City, and all these different places, and also but also smaller firms, and they were kind of under the impression, and this is how a lot of recruiters think, that they only work for the biggest firms, the most prestigious firms, and so they literally got their self-esteem out of this, I think, and it's just kind of weird, but that's what was going on. And so they continued to try to make placements in smaller firms, and I mean, in larger firms weren't having any luck. And I went out there about, I don't know, 6 months into this, and one of them was that I haven't made money in like 8 months, and practically like living off Pringles or something, and the other was having huge problems. And then but that had gone up, I gave them the same presentation to the attorneys in New York that I gave to the ones in Chicago, and it was just a different reception to the idea. I told them that they needed to get people out of Chicago and send them to the suburbs and send them to smaller markets, and smaller firms, and try to get these people that were getting laid off jobs that way. Well, I mean, the interesting thing happened is that the attorneys in Chicago, the recruiters in Chicago, actually there were three of them. They all had their best years ever, and as if this idea that I gave them was like revolutionary. And the reason they had their best years is because smaller law firms, if there's really good talent, they're interested in hiring them. I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, if someone with great firm experience in law school and stuff is applying there, and they have the work, they will hire them. And a lot of work also at the large law firms slowed down because their billing rates are high and there's all sorts of issues. But at the smaller firms, a lot of the work that was being done by larger firms was being given to them because they were cheaper. And so these are just all ideas that are not revolutionary. But if you have a lot of moves on your resume, you can always get a job by targeting smaller firms. I mean, if they can make money from you, they will. They're smaller; they may have less concern about you leaving. About you undermining the morale of the attorneys there. There's not a lot of attorneys there, so that can help you. Networking is always a good idea. A lot of people get jobs through networking. There's a lot of ways to network, but you should really, if you want to ever develop a book of business and be a really, have a good, professional background. I mean, you should always do your best to do strategic networking, and the reason for that is that by staying in touch with a core group of people, I recommend 100. Checking in with them like at least every 6 months, you're going to be able to always, probably get business and find jobs. It just works that way. But very few people do that. I mean, they think it's too much work, but again, like spending 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week just connecting with people, messaging people, calling people is a huge thing that can make you incredibly successful. I mean, there's a story about Bill Clinton, and when he was at, when he started Yale Law School, he would write a note card about every person that he met, and he just kept doing it. Like he did it when he got to Arkansas. He just kept doing it, and and then he would memorize everything that he learned about them from these note cards, and then he would go back and he would study these note cards. He would sit down and study them, and spend time doing that as in addition to making these new note cards all the time when he met people. Well, there's all these stories about him that he could, he might meet someone like 20 years after, he met them, and he would immediately like ask them about their kids by name, and all these things that he knew about them that were personal. People were just blown away. And I mean, that kind of networking can make you president of the United States or governor or and all these things. So, networking is hugely important. Very few people do it. Every attorney that I know that gets business, networks consistently. I mean, they do a lot of it, but networking is not only for getting business, it's also for getting jobs. And then, sometimes you can, customize your applications and, talk about things that way. That can help you. Very few people customize their applications to the firm they're applying to. So that is also hugely important if you're able to do that and do things that way. That can help. There's all these things that I recommend that will help you more to get a job more than if you just are sending a resume. Things like putting your resume in the mail and mailing people are just massively important. I remember I once had an application for an in-house attorney in our company, and I got it's a lot of resumes. I mean, probably at least 200, and I had only one person like mail me the resume, and it happened to be like a really, really good attorney. And I interviewed that person, and then I just kind of like shut the job down. I stopped thinking about it and started working on other stuff. And then one day, this woman walked in her resume and said, I know who you are. Like I've read your stuff and watched like webinars, and I was very like flattered. And I was like, this is amazing. Like she walked in her resume. So I hired her, and it was literally the worst hire that I could ever meet. I mean, she could not. I don't know how she was admitted to the bar, but I mean, she just could not write a letter. I mean, it was just atrocious. And but the point is that that was a customized application. Someone walked their application in, and when people do things like that, it gets your attention. And then the other thing about is preparing for interviews. There's a lot of resources on the BCG Attorney Search website. There's also a really good PDF that I wrote about it. But you need to prepare effectively for your interviews. So when you do get interviews, you need to be able to go in and get the job. Some of the biggest things that they're concerned about is there's kind of 5 different things. One of them is can you do the job? And all you really need to, most people can do the job. I mean, if they're attorneys, they can figure it out. But your resume needs to be focused on your practice area. The second one that's very important is, will you do the job long term? Meaning, are you going to get this job and are you going to commit to it? I mean, that's very, very important. So very few people will get a job and commit. And so you need to look like someone that will commit to the work and give a good reasons for that. And then the next one is, can you be managed? So, law firms are looking for all sorts of clues like, can you be managed or not? I had this one thing happen, and I just want to, sorry, it should turn out to be a fairly long webinar, but it's important stuff. I had an instance not too long ago where I had a candidate that got a $400,000 a year job in Oakland, California, or something like that, and he was a senior type associate, and he of course was this job was a very good job for him because he was making like $250,000 and all of a sudden he had this job for $400,000. And so he contacted the firm after getting this offer, and he said, do you have a remote work policy? And they said, let me get back to you. And they and to my astonishment, like within an hour, they sent a letter saying they were revoking the offer. And they just didn't like that. I mean, I guess that showed that he wasn't manageable. And they said he should have asked about that during the interviews. And so that's one of the big things. Like, law firms are looking for clues. Like if you start asking about, time off, salaries, all this sorts of stuff, I mean, then they get really freaked out. And salaries are a whole other discussion, but that's very important. You need to be focused. You need to understand that. And then, in addition to, being manageable, they want you to be likable and, some other things as well. So, so just in general, I mean, these job changes and career pivots, law firms really can think that they can be, major red flags. They're certainly not things that are insurmountable, and I've told you some ways to address them. But this is one of the most important topics, that for your career, and I commend you for watching this webinar and learning about this. So anything you can do to get around it and and stay employed and when you have those problems, is very important. So you need to get around it. And my best advice to you is, if you get fired from a firm, take that lesson and just apply yourself in the next firm, and it's all you can. And if you have problems with the way a firm does business, it's really not your place to get involved with that, and you have to not deal with that stuff. You just need to stay away. And if you think you're leaving just because you're bored, or you have, you think that a grass is greener on another side, the odds are that it's not. I mean, there's different cultures for law firms and different sorts of things, but in most cases, if you leave, it's not, I mean, you shouldn't leave. I mean, unless it's really, you have good reasons to do so, and that generally means moving to a better firm, and in my opinion, and yeah, so. Yeah, so you need to, look employable, and I just think that, a law firm is a really great place to, run your career. I mean, I just highly, recommend it, sticking with it and kind of getting through all this, and then not, leaving. If you're fired, you need to apply to as many places as possible. Okay, so I will take a quick break, and then when we get back, I will do questions and answers, and then again, as many questions as you have, I will answer. I think that this is an important topic, but if you have questions about anything else, I'm happy to answer those too. And so I will be back in just probably like 2 to 3 minutes. Thanks. Let me go to the questions and answers. I think it's very smart for everyone to watch these webinars, especially today's. That this topic is just incredibly important, and really I think it's some of the biggest It's one of the biggest mistakes that people make in their careers is not understanding or really following these kind of rules. But let me make sure it's screen because I'm going to go to questions. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the next question. So let me just see here. How should I frame my decision to leave a toxic work environment without sounding negative about my past employers? Yeah, so I mean that's 100% true. There are environments that are toxic. I mean, they could be toxic for individuals, or they could be toxic for certain individuals, meaning they can be targeted, by a certain employer. I mean, by a certain attorney, or they could be toxic because just the entire, entire, firm is toxic. I had an episode happen with, not an episode, but there was an attorney at this firm I worked at, Dewey Ballantyne, and there were all these people that had worked for her for like, for a short length of time, like 3-4 months or whatever. She'd have some, or she'd give them an assignment, and these people would just literally resign, or I don't know what would happen, and leave the firm. And I started like asking questions about this because I'd started working on an assignment for her, and she and I asked questions about these people that left, and like I couldn't believe it. Like one of the women had become a waitress, and she'd gone to Columbia Law School, and a couple others had equally bad experiences, and that's and bad things happen to them. Like I don't think what was going on exactly, but I mean the point, to your point, there are a lot of environments that are um, there are a lot of environments that can be extremely toxic, and people that can be extremely toxic. And so, you really want to avoid them. And every law firm, there are people that when people go to work for them, just end up having horrible experiences, and the law firms may actually cycle through multiple people. Multiple associates just keep hiring them over and over again after people work for these toxic partners. And this particular toxic partner, I went to work for her, and she was not, she was not smart, and had been given this very important case. And so, when I say not smart, I mean that she wasn't picking up on certain things about the law. She was angry that she didn't understand them, blaming me for that, and then literally because she was so toxic, and I realized what was she wasn't really smart enough to pick up on this stuff, and she knew I was aware of it. Became pretty much out for me, just very mad. And so, and that was kind of, I think, probably what happened with a lot of other people. So when you work in a toxic work environment, there's always going to be toxic people in most firms, and you need to be very careful that you stay away from them. And if you do kind of go in their orbit, then you need to really go out of your way to do the best work possible. But I would say, and this is actually true, there are certain personalities that are just very, that get off on hurting people or, whatever. It's just how they are. And there's a small percentage of the population. It's like something like, 4 in every 100 people that are actually sociopathic. And, and those kind of people, if you come into contact with them, and that you have to be very careful. So that's one type of toxic environment is one person. And then other firms can become toxic for all sorts of reasons. The compensation patterns of partners, you just never know. And those environments can become very, very difficult to work in. So when you leave a firm, you always have to, when you're trying to apply to new places, you always have to, answer the question of why you're leaving. And, in general, your best answer is always going to be something along the lines of, you're trying to get better work, you're trying to get more work, you're trying to get more focus in your practice area, you're trying to work with different types of clients. Like those are the best if you haven't lost your job. But learning about that kind of stuff is, very, very important, I think. Knowing how to frame your experience. So you want to frame your experience as, moving up, moving up, better work, sorry, moving up, better work, better work, more work, more work. More work is actually always a good idea, and it's important. Even if sometimes if you're fired, you talk about how the firm didn't have enough work, and it's very common, by the way, for firms to let people go when they don't have enough work. So and that reflects on the firm, but you would say something along the lines of had a really good experience there, I really like people, but there just wasn't enough work, and if you can talk about that, that's good. If there's not enough work because people are toxic, and you just say, and you're not getting enough work because of that, that's also something that you need to be aware of. But you can get into different environments, and what's always important to do, what I recommend is when someone is hiring you, you ask, who am I replacing? And then when you ask who you're replacing, you may ask, why did that person leave? And then you can get answers to that as well. And many times the firm will tell you that the person was let go. And so, that's, you need to avoid getting into toxic work environments. Other firms, other environments can become very toxic if there's financial issues or compensation issues. You just don't know, but you need to be very careful about what you say about a toxic work environment. It's very, very important. I remember I had a candidate, Michael Avenatti, who was the person that represented Stormy Daniels, and he went to he obviously went to prison because he was trying to extort money from Nike or something, and then he stole Stormy Daniels' money or whatever. But he was at I was talking to an associate that was from there when all this was going on, and he and he was my candidate, and he was like, oh, it was a great place to work. I'm just trying to find a better work environment and all this kind of stuff. And it was crazy because it was like national headlines, and it was a very small firm about how bad of a place it's supposed to work. So you just want to be very careful about what you say. And there are a lot of toxic work environments, but the better you can the better you can frame your move, the better. And my advice too is if you are in a toxic work environment, you start looking for a new position immediately. Many times, when the environment is toxic, it's because you're not doing things the way they want to. Maybe they perceive you as someone that can't be managed, or they don't like the quality of your work. So you should always do whatever you can to get away from that sort of stuff. And then one final thing just about toxic work environments. There are firms where there are factions of partners, like certain factions will be against each other, and then things will be toxic because of that. And your best way of dealing with any of this is just to not choose sides, and to try to separate yourself from any type of drama that's where you're working. Yeah. So, 100%. I'm just looking at some of the questions. Okay, so this is a good question. A good question. So, how can I use recommendations or from past employers to strengthen my job application despite a varied employment industry? So yeah, so recommendations and testimonials are a very good thing to use if you can. When you leave firms, unfortunately, like if the firm had a problem with you and you give people's names out and stuff, there's kind of two things that happen. So at the best firms, they will never give you a bad recommendation. I remember years ago, I had a candidate that had left Simpson Thatcher in New York I mean, she had just gone nuts. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was not good. And I think she'd actually been hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital for a while for something. And she told me this, and it was unbelievable. I was like, and again, there's nothing wrong with going to a psychiatric hospital. I'm sure a good proportion like of the population has been to one for whatever reason. So I'm not criticizing her for that, but she left the firm because she was having some sort of crazy manic thing, and anyway, so I called the firm at Simpson Thatcher, and she gave me a couple of attorneys to talk to, and they said nothing negative about her. Like her work was great, we liked her. She'd do really well at another firm, and even though she told me that this just wasn't true. And so, I learned that pretty early on that the best firms, like if you go to a really good firm, they will never give you a bad recommendation. They just won't. I mean, it's just not in their DNA. They have no incentive to do it because they want people to go there and leave and be employable somewhere else and hopefully refer them business or something down the line. So the best firms don't give bad recommendations. The only firms that give bad recommendations generally are smaller firms, some mid-sized firms. The attorneys there will almost look at it like they have a sense of power and they're excited about it. And even though they say they will give good recommendations, they don't. So what do I recommend? So I would recommend, anytime you leave an employer, you can certainly ask them for a recommendation. Sometimes, even if you're leaving on bad terms, you can ask them, will you write me a letter of recommendation? And a good proportion of the time, they actually will. Very few people do this. I was looking at a resume from a woman from Yale Law School yesterday, and she had listed, one person at one firm as a recommendation where she worked for a year. And I really, would encourage you to do everything you can to get a recommendation if you're leaving the firm. That really goes a long way. If somebody actually types out and writes a letter of recommendation, they're far less likely to contradict themselves later on with a bad recommendation. If someone calls, I always recommend that. You should always have advocates, like wherever you're working. So you should have partners that really like your work. You should have, do something along those lines, even to the extent of clients that like your work. You should get recommendations if you can. Recommendations, very, very few people do. I've seen in my entire career, maybe two or three attorneys that I was working with that actually had gotten written letters of recommendation, and I highly recommend you ask for them. I think that you should have people in your corner wherever you are. This is one reason why it's very, very important to do the best work you can to improve, to be a servant to people you're working for. It's just very, very important. So I would, if you are having a difficult time finding a job, or you are looking for a position, I don't know, you've been let go, whatever, getting a letter of recommendation can be very, very helpful, because then, then it kind of the person that wrote it won't, be able to contradict themselves. Another thing that's kind of interesting, this is something I've only seen one or two times in my career. A lot of firms will give people written performance reviews, and they'll just go into a lot of detail. And if you got a good performance review, you should use that. I mean, you can use that with new employers and attach that to your application. So any type of letter of recommendation is going to, it's going to head off, the idea that you might have done bad work. It's going to head off the idea that you might be someone that's difficult to manage. And so that's very, very good if you can get those. And these are things that I don't understand why attorneys don't do, because in every other business, like if you get some flyer in the mail about some service, or you are looking to buy something online, there's always going to be recommendations. I mean, Amazon always has lots of recommendations for its products. I mean, there's just, people writing testimonials and things. So you need but these should be like kind of a no-brainer. Okay, here's next. This is a good question. Yeah, I've noticed that for every transactional job, there are like 3 to 4 times as many litigation attorney jobs. Do you think the market is like this and this is normal? So yeah, so anytime there's an economic boom, where there's a lot of economic activity, which happened, during COVID, it happened, at various points in time. There's always, going to be, more, transactional job openings, but there's fewer transactional job openings than litigators. It's always been the case. The reason is that people, are always suing people, and it's just how it works. I mean, there's personal injury attorneys file tons of lawsuits. They need insurance defense attorneys to do that. There's commercial litigation that's always going on. There's, there's so many litigation related jobs. It's just crazy. I mean, there's family law. There's 15 different types of litigation. There's just all these different litigation jobs. So, from a standpoint of career stability, there's, you're better off in many cases doing litigation, but at the same time, if you want to develop business, like as a partner, then corporate is definitely the best type of job. And the reason is because corporate attorneys work with companies, then those companies get sued, and they can bring in business, or they have IP issues, and they become very close with with employers. And so so that, with companies. And so, but yeah, litigation, there's always a lot more jobs than there are, than there are for transactional attorneys. And the only thing I would say, if I was an attorney going into the practice of law, like I would be very careful about transactional jobs. So transactional jobs, are, I guess it would be finance and corporate and real estate and stuff. And so like real estate's getting killed right now. Corporate's not doing that well. So there's always going to be, it's always, a risky practice area to get into, but it also has the most upside as a partner, because you can bring in, clients. But litigation is always going on. I mean, if you are a skilled litigator, and you just learn how to be a litigator, there's so many, you can just like plop into family law, for example. Like I know lots of people that were commercial litigators at major firms and became family law attorneys. And there's just a ton of work for litigators out there. Insurance coverage, there's a ton of work, just a lot. Insurance defense. Okay, what are the most common signs that an employer perceives an applicant as unmanageable, and how can one address or correct this perception early in the recruitment process to avoid being prematurely disqualified? So unmanageability is really comes down to, excuse me, a few things. A few things when an employee, when a candidate is interviewed. Most candidates are unmanageable. Will talk about things that were wrong in the firm that they don't like, and obviously most attorneys know not to do that, but that may come through a little bit. Sometimes they will ask about hours. They will ask about remote work. They'll ask about time off. They'll ask about like all these sorts of things. An attorney may ask in an interview, and so that's kind of how they'll pick up on that. They'll pick up on it by the questions that you ask, and also the ways that, I mean, how you if you say anything negative about your employer, they may come up with that idea. So those are some of the most common signs. One thing that I would recommend wherever you work is just do whatever they want, and you don't create problems, and you don't take sides in different issues. I mean, it's what happens in every law firm is there's always groups of people or people that are going to be negative about the firm, and they'll plop into your office and close the door and start talking about things, and then they'll leave, and the partners will see this, and they'll kind of know that, and they'll see people talking, and they'll come up, they'll kind of know who has issues with the firm, and having issues with where you work is unmanageable. I mean, there's certain people that know how to go into any employer and not get involved in drama, and not start thinking the place is a horrible place to work, and just put their just sit down and get do the work, and they'll be okay. And there's other people that are going to come there and have issues, and then leave. And so you just need to you need to be seen as someone that likes the work. So you talk about how you like the firm, how you like the work, how there's great attorneys there, how they have important work or whatever. I mean, you just kind of talk about that and come across as someone that really likes where you're working, and really likes and then gotten a lot out of it and stuff. And then law firms will presume that you're manageable. But manageable basically, it means a lot of things. It means falling into what the law firm the way law firms want things done, it follows, and not getting involved in drama, like all this sort of stuff. So you always want to be really, really careful. Okay. I want to make sure and thank you everyone for asking all these questions. I mean, these are really good questions, and I think, I'm certainly impressed with, everyone on this call, because, this is definitely a really, really important firm. I mean, information, and very few people take the time to, as a portion of the attorneys, take the time to like improve themselves. I mean, I think this stuff is incredibly important and save your career. Okay, given that law firms do not like candidates who change jobs a lot, do you recommend law students find the right firm and commit to that firm for 5+ years? I really want to get to a bigger firm, but given my school and grades, I feel like my only way is through lateral movement into a big law firm. So I'm curious how long I should stay at the first firm I work at. Okay, so this is a great question. There's a couple things. So, when you get out of law school, the firms only have your grades and law school. That's it. That's the only thing that they have, to judge you by. That's it. So if you didn't go to a good law school and you didn't get good grades, the start of your career, is going to be, will not be as good as you like. Great. Which is actually okay. It doesn't matter. But so let's say you go into, I'm just coming up with a random practice area. Let's say you go into real estate. And so, when you start your career, in the city you're in, there might be, 150 people. I don't know what the number would be, but let's say 100 people. Well, I'll say 150. I mean, that literally could cover a decent size. But let me say 100, because there's not going to be a lot of you. So, after 1 year, there's going to be maybe, 80. And then after 2 years, there's going to be maybe, sorry, might be 60, right? So, and then after 4 years, these are people working in a law firm. There might be 25, right? And then after 5 years, there might be 15, right? So then, you're 15, 15 attorneys at 5 years with, when you apply for a job, let's say you apply in March of, whatever, March of X year of, let's say, 2029, 2029, out of those 15 attorneys, there might be 1 to 2 looking for jobs. So this is what the power of staying in a firm. And again, I make money when I take people to different firms, but I mean, I'm just telling you how important this is. So what this means is that you may have started your career at a firm you don't like, in a city, and the first year there's 100 people that you're competing with for jobs. So if you're looking for a job after your first year, no one's going to hire you because your grades and stuff aren't great. But after 5 years, when you apply to a firm in March of 2029, there might only be 1 or 2 attorneys looking for jobs. And so the law firm does not have a lot of options. A lot of options. So they don't have a lot of options, and for the hiring. And so if you have been at your firm, 5 years, and but you're competing with and the other applicant has been at 3 firms. The law firm, is going to, this would be the board. You're going to be probably the best applicant. So, and so just so you understand, so what happens is you start your career, and say you're in, I mean, this even could apply to Los Angeles. There are 100, and this is probably even high. I mean, it's going to be much lower than that, but I'll just say this is for hypothetical. So there's 100 first-year associates when you start your career. You're definitely not at the best firm because of your grades and everything in your law school. Let me just make one other point. So when you get out of law school, there might be, there's 26, let's say there's 30, I don't know what the number is, but it's like 30,000 new law students per year, right? New law students per year. And, maybe there's 1,000 jobs, I don't know what it would be, 1,500 jobs at AmLaw, 100 law firms. You get the idea. And, law firms, and then whatever X number, 15,000 I don't know what the number is, but the point is that you are not going to do well, because there's too much competition from people that went to better law schools than you did, and out of those 30,000 people. So the law firms have a limited number of spaces. There might be 15,000 or whatever, and so they're going to hire the best people. And the only thing that they have to grade you on to compare you to is someone else that other people that went to law school and did better and went to better law schools. So that's who you're competing with when you start. But say you go into this practice area and there's 100 people the first year, and probably out of those 100, maybe 80 went to better law schools than you. I mean, I'm just saying hypothetically, you're doing real estate, but those people are going to attrition out, so they're going to go into other careers. So 5 years in, there might only be 15 of them. They've gone in house, they've done other things. Maybe they've moved to other cities. I mean, who knows? But there's only going to be 15 people. And then when you start, if you and then say you're looking for a job in March of 2029, out of those people, maybe only one or two are going to look for jobs. So those are the people that you're competing with. And I'll tell you another thing that's pretty awesome. So once you've been doing a practice area for a while, once you've been out of school and you've proven yourself at a law firm, well, and proving yourself at a law firm, um, you know, most law firms don't care about grades. So, well, so they don't. I mean, the reason is because if they did, they wouldn't be able to hire people because it's just they're looking for people. The only thing they care about, is your expertise in a practice area. I mean, that's it. So they love it. So so if you've been at the same firm for 5 years and you want to move to a better firm, then having expertise in your practice area is the most important thing. And you're not going to be competing with a lot of other attorneys because there's just not a lot of other fifth-year attorneys out there. I mean, in certain practice areas, like if you're in the right economy, like say you were in corporate and working at a small law firm, and then after 5 years, the market was really good. You could get into an Am Law 100 law firm. It happens all the time. I had an experience that was very funny. It was an attorney that I'm just going to grab something. It was sorry, give me one second. I'm just looking for something. Give me 1 second. Oh, I guess I'm not finding it. Oh, here we go. No, sorry, I'm looking for a charger on my desk. The charger. Whoa. Oh, I found it. Sorry, I use this Whoop thing, which goes in your wrist to exercise. And I'm going to exercise after this, and it's battery low charge. Okay, so the idea is that so you're only competing with a few attorneys, but the experience I was going to tell you about is very funny. So I had an attorney. He'd gone to Rutgers Law School and had done, okay, like I mean, whatever. I mean, graduated, and he joined a small law firm in somewhere in New Jersey. It wasn't a big city in New Jersey. I don't remember what it was, but it was doing corporate work for small companies. And so there was one of these booms in corporate work, which sometimes the market gets overheated and out of control. And I got him an interview without the bar, and I think it was a Paul Hastings in like San Francisco or something like that. And they flew he and his wife out there, and then he got there and he was like, I can't believe it. Like they put me up in this huge suite, like with, like 2 bedrooms and like the biggest suite in this beautiful hotel. And we're interviewing him for a corporate job. And he actually didn't get it because the corporate market, when it slows down rapidly. And so they kind of put him on hold and then eventually didn't make him an offer. But I mean, this sort of thing happens, like it's completely crazy when the economy is your practice area is going really well. And it doesn't really matter what firm you're at, if you're, if you have enough experience, and you're not going to be competing with a lot of people. So, someone that has, like I showed you here, someone, out of these one or two attorneys, and if you're looking for jobs, you've been at your firm for 5 years, and the competition has been at 3 firms, and they're going to hire you. And they honestly, firms, even big firms, when you have several years of experience, they just grades are no longer an issue. I mean, the most important issue is your focus on your practice area. So I do recommend, if you can, staying at your firm for as long as possible, because that experience and showing that stability is going to make you a much better applicant. And when time goes by and there's not going to be a lot of people like you looking for jobs, and so you're going to have, you're going to be in very, very good shape. Okay, so the next question is, what type of nope, it's not working. Yeah. I don't know why my computer looks like this. Anyway, all right, whatever. So the next question is, what kind of professional development or certification would you recommend to strengthen my candidacy, especially after a career pivot or unemployment period? Okay, so this is a good question, and I hate to give the answer I'm going to give. These certifications and so forth, the people get in different practice areas, aren't necessarily going to be that helpful. It's kind of like, it's just that it's not going to help you. You stick out really more. The most important thing is going to be working in the law firm. So, my advice to you would be, if you, you have a career pivot or unemployment period, would be, the answer always is, in my opinion, smaller firms, or look at smaller markets. So, everything's about the law of supply and demand. So, the law of supply and demand is basically, if you're applying to, the firms with, where there's competition, then the law firms are going to hire someone. Law firms are going to hire someone was currently working in a law firm. I mean, you would do the same too. So that just means that you more than professional certifications, the most important thing is really going to be working in a law firm. So in my opinion, like the best way, if you have these career pivots or unemployment, is to apply to smaller firms where they're not getting applications, from people, or you look at smaller markets. Like I talk to firms like several times a week that are in smaller markets that just it's impossible for them to find candidates. So they just can't do it. And so if you're applying to smaller markets where other people aren't applying, then you're going to have much more luck, finding, a position. It's just, it's extremely important, to try to do that to keep your career going. And you don't need to look, you don't need to look even outside your market. You just need to find smaller firms that do the sort of work you do. I think, that is the most important thing, because there's all these attorneys out there that don't have people applying to work with them, don't in their businesses. So they, someone comes along that they can bill out and make money from, then they're going to hire you. So that's just how I would think about it. There are certain certifications. So certifications can be in There's in California, you can become like a certified family law specialist and all these different certifications. You can do professional development and certain practice areas like trust and estates. You can take classes, and you can there's all sorts of things you can do to strengthen your to look stronger to employers. So those are two things that that can be good, but at the same time, I don't think that. And again, I talk to attorneys all day long. I mean, not all day long, but several times a week, that think that because they're unemployed, would it be smarter for them to go and get some professional certification? And my answer is no. I mean, they just need to apply to a bunch of firms. I mean, it's crazy. Like, the way out of the problem is not getting the certification and thinking that employers are going to be interested in you. The way out of the problem is like brute force and applying to as many places as you can. And people don't listen to me, but it's like it works. Like the BCG, like 85% or something. Again, I don't know. I mean, it might be 77 or but I measured this years ago. But the majority of interviews are with firms that have openings. So why wouldn't you? I mean, not don't have openings. So why wouldn't you be applying to these firms? They can hire you now. I recommend, if I was you and you're interested in the practice area, I would author articles. I would try to go to different events relevant to your practice area, and do things like that. But I think the first solution, the most important solution, is to really do brute force in your job search. And I think I'm gonna share my screen and just show everyone some examples, because it is kind of important to understand. Give me one second. Zoom. Okay. I'm going to share screen. Give me one second. Okay. So, the idea here is, anytime, you're looking for a job. So, regardless of your practice area. So let's say, I'm just trying to come up, so say you're in Reno, Nevada, right? And you're saying, what am I going to do to find a new job? And you're a real estate attorney. So, I would say real estate attorneys, Nevada. Okay, so you're looking at all these places. There's these people that are sponsored. There's these people of these groups, things. There's all of these pages and pages of. And this is Reno, Nevada. I mean, the last I checked, not much was going on in Reno. But you have all these, and here's a law firm. You have all these different places, and you can just go on for pages and pages and pages of real estate attorneys. I mean, it's ludicrous. Oh, look, here's BCG. How many real estate attorneys and stuff there are. So this is just one example. In Reno, Nevada, I mean, come on. I mean, it's a very small legal market, but there's just tons and tons of stuff. And then here are businesses, that call themselves real estate attorneys. So you can look at these. I mean, like, there is no freaking reason to be unemployed. I mean, regardless. I mean, it's just there's so many jobs out there and firms where you can possibly work. I mean, when people tell me they're unemployed, I'm astonished, because there's just all these. I mean, look at these people: commercial litigation, commercial real estate. I mean, this is just some random firm, that I found in Reno, Nevada. And I've never been to Reno, but I mean, there's not a lot going on there, but there's all these firms. So my point is that regardless of what your practice area, regardless of what city you're in, regardless, I mean, there's so many. You should be applying to all of these people. I mean, look at these guys. What do? They do asset protection, probate, financial planning, estate planning. Certainly real estate. Well, anyway, so so you go to these places and you just see real estate, cross law group, estate planning, real estate attorney, Gunderson law firm. I'm just I'm showing you what I would do. So so you go here and look at these people, like nice people. You go here and you look at the firm, you look at their practice areas. And I find it odd they do all these things, but I guess they do. And then you find out, you figure out who to apply to. So, here, look at that. I can email them right now. So, you would go in. This is called the Gunderson Law Firm. So what I would do is I would, find out who Gunderson is, and I would apply to Gunderson. You could apply to him, and you would basically say, I'm interested in working at your firm. I'm a real estate attorney, and I would love to work for you, and or love to learn more about your firm if you're in Reno. So this is really all you need to do. And I'm just I want to help you, and I want to help whoever is on this call, because this can change your life. All you need to do is find every possible place you can that does the kind of work you do. And again, I'm just poking around in Reno, Nevada. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, there's so many places where you could possibly work. I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, it's just over and over and over again. You're going to find lots of places, and if you're looking, and here's BCG in the list. These firms all have offices there. So I can't recommend enough trying to find as many places as you possibly can. I would apply to every one of these places. I would you go through these lists and you find all the places to apply to. And this is all you need to do to take control of your career if you're unemployed. You just need to find lots and lots of places. And these people, I can guarantee you, are not getting a lot of applications. It's just not happening. I mean, no one's applying to them because people don't do their job search this way. People are going to Indeed or Simply Hired, or I recommend Law Crossing because it's my site. But people are going to all these different sites looking for jobs, and it's insane because you really need to be applying to places that don't have openings that aren't advertised. And so just to make sure you understand what I'm saying, if you apply to places that have openings, like you're going to be competing against people that are that are employed, that don't have a career pivot, like all these different things. But if you apply to other types of firms, then you're going to have a lot of luck. And so that's what I recommend. And I hope it helps you, because and the thing that's discouraging to me, this is one of the most discouraging things in my job, and I probably shouldn't do it, but when people are candidates at BCG, I will tell them about the current openings, but I will also suggest lots and lots of firms to them. And they most often get spooked, and they're like, I don't want to apply to this firm. What's this guy doing? And without realizing that that's the most important thing they can do for their careers is look at a lot of firms, and they often don't. So. Okay, so this person, let me see this, answer life. Okay, same question, same answer to the same question. So what kind of freelance work or consulting opportunities should I pursue during unemployment gaps to enhance my resume? Okay, anyone, like it doesn't matter who you are. Like, I don't care what your practice area is. I don't care what your location in the country is. And if there's nothing in your location, you're such a small area, then that's fine. But I do not think anyone needs to do freelance work or consulting work. And I'm going to say something that's a little bit harsh, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. So if you are not, if your job as an attorney, and everyone's job, right, is to represent yourself. So that's your job. So if you do not, in order to represent yourself, well, you need to take action and help your case. So what does that mean? So, that means figuring out your best resume, and there are lots and lots of resumes. Videos and things that I've done online about, doing, creating your best resume. So watch those. I mean, a lot of people, have contacted me that not even my candidates. That that's been incredibly helpful to their career. So you should, do what you can to figure out your best resume. And again, your job is to represent yourself. So once you figure out your best resume, it's going after the market and applying everywhere you can. So no recruiter is going to tell you this. No, I mean, some recruit, but I don't know if any recruiters that would. But your only objective is to get a job, so you need to apply everywhere you can, and it's not that hard. Again, you do searches on Google, and you apply to firms that list themselves in your practice area, and you go to page 10 if you need to. I mean, you just keep finding them and you apply to firms on the list, and then you go to Google, and you look at the businesses and things it recommends, and you apply to all those places. If you do that, you'll get a job. I mean, you'll definitely get interviews because law firms are businesses, and if they think that they have any use for you, they will bring you in. So what you would do the same thing. So if you had I don't know, what would be an example? You had I don't know, you had a pool that needed to be cleaned, and you never could find people to clean it because for whatever reason. Then suddenly someone showed up and said, "I can clean the pool." You would do it, but a law firm's a little different. Like they're charging by the hour, and if they have extra work, and someone shows up that can help them do that work, they're going to hire you. I mean, you would too. So all you need to do is go after the market and apply everywhere you can. Now, you may think there's something wrong with applying everywhere. You think that people are going to be mean if you apply there. And the reality is that no, people aren't going to be mean to you. They're going to get your resume and they're going to, if they like it, they're going to bring you in. And, you might have to apply to 100 places, but someone is going to have work for you to do. And it doesn't matter your seniority level. It doesn't matter, none of it matters. I mean, if they have the work, they're going to bring you in. You would too. So that's just how it works. But most people don't have the gumption to apply to a lot of places. I don't know why that is, but they don't. And so you need to cover the entire freaking market, and that's your job. I mean, if you had someone was convicted of murder and you had to find witnesses and contact people, I mean, you would do everything you could to find those witnesses as an attorney. So your case is no different, and it's incredible to me. Like, I talk to attorneys, on a regular basis that are unemployed, that haven't been able to find a job, that have all these issues, and but they don't, they don't apply to firms, when they can. So that's what how I would recommend it. So let me see. Okay. In situations where an attorney has moved from a smaller firm to a larger, more prestigious one, how can they best address this transition if the move involved a temporary setback in terms of title or responsibilities? Would it be more beneficial to focus on the potential for future advancement, or should the emphasis be on the enhanced exposure, high-profile clients and cases? Okay, so this is a good question. So this is what happens to a lot of attorneys. So there are very good firms out there, and you will be an associate at one smaller firm, and then you will apply to a larger firm, and they will say, "We're going to make you a staff attorney" or something like that. And in my opinion, and I had a woman years ago, and she was very nice. She was referred to me by her father, who I was helping get a patent attorney job, and she was a trademark attorney at a small law firm in Washington D.C. and wanted to get a job at a bigger firm. And so I was sending her out to firms and so forth, and getting a little bit of interest from like mid-sized firms. I don't know, she might have had one interview or two interviews or something. But then on her own, she got an interview at this, big, M-Law 100 law firm, and it was a staff attorney job. And she said, this is all I've ever wanted, is to work at this large firm and everything like that. And I was like, well, yeah, but it's a staff attorney job. I mean, I would be careful. Anyway, so she took it because it was like her dream, which, is sweet and everything, and I'm glad she got it. But the problem is when you take a hit in your title at going to a large law firm, most of those firms are never going to make you an associate. They will tell you, you're doing great work, but our policy is never to make staff attorneys or whatever it is, contract attorneys, associates. We just can't do it. It's never happened. I mean, this is how they say. So you as a staff attorney will, may work on larger clients, but the problem is you will be in a situation where you probably will not get the most sophisticated work that will go to associates, but you will have the benefit of, regular hours and that sort of thing. The problem with staff attorney jobs, if you're moving to a larger law firm, is that if work slows down, you're the first to go before associates, so you're treated a little bit differently. And then, of course, the lack of advancement, and so you get the firm name, but it comes at a cost. So if you do that, I would. When you try to look for new jobs, I would, try to come at it and look very, very strong. So do things that even associates don't do. Get involved in different associations, start writing papers, give presentations, do all these things to enhance your resume and look like you're actually better than an associate because you're more committed to your practice area and so forth. And that's what you want to do. Now, there are certain practice areas. The most common is trademark, where they will hire, lots of staff attorneys as opposed to, associates, and that's because the work is often not that profitable. It's like kind of piecemeal, and you do one trademark and another. I mean, there's just different reasons for it. But so you can take a staff attorney job like that. What I recommend is when you move between firms, you can do this. So your last attorney might have been an associate, your first firm, associate firm one, and then the staff attorney job. You were maybe staff attorney. So one of the ways to kind of, it's not unethical. You say attorney. From two. So I would just say, you go and then instead of, saying associate, you just basically say attorney. So attorney firm one and attorney firm two. Nothing, unethical about that. You were an attorney in both places. And then so you don't highlight the staff attorney job because that sometimes scares people away. You just call yourself an attorney. Now, if it comes up, of course, you say I'm a staff attorney, and leave it at that. So that's one way to deal with that when you switch. But any major law firm is going to touch on that. So law firm will sniff this out, very quickly. But if you're applying to smaller firms, you're applying to smaller or mid-sized firms, it may not, but that would be one thing I would recommend. But the most important thing is, you make your resume much stronger than associates. You show like a major dedication to the practice area, and then you start doing all the things, um, the things that would bring in business. So you network, whatever you need to do, network. Read my articles about how to generate business, but you start doing all those things. So I don't think that being a staff attorney is the worst thing, but what I don't like is the drawbacks of it, the the not having the same responsibilities, the security, the upward potential. That all to me, I don't like. I mean, I do believe, and again, I'm not trying to be rude here because people do this all the time. But I think that, rather than moving from a staff attorney at one firm from being an associate at another firm, you're probably better off staying an associate at one firm, just because, it's going to be, it's just a different title that may, mean, different things for career advancement. But if you don't, if you're not interested in being a partner or anything, and you want flexibility in terms of your hours and all that sort of stuff, that can be really good. I know a guy that went to UCLA. He, smart. I mean, he got like 178 or something on his LSATs, and just something ridiculous. He went to UCLA Law School, and then he got out, and he just basically, became a contract attorney, and he did it for like 20 years. He lived really frugally, and then he loved it, and then he retired. I mean, he retired at the age of like 37 or something, and so you can do really well in these jobs. I mean, it's not that financially it's a bad thing, and you're certainly not exposed to the same stresses that a lot of associates would. It's a dangerous type of job, because it doesn't connote a lot of advancement. But if you want that advancement, if you don't want that advancement, then that may be a good job. I mean, a lot of times, it's very common for like women that want to, have families, and may have worked at a really prestigious firm and then want to go back to being just they want to be an attorney, but they don't want the same stress. So that's a good job. It's a good job if you don't want to be, if you, don't want to be an attorney permanently or work in a law firm permanently, it can be a good job too. Okay. And thanks everyone for all these questions. These are great. Let's see here. Okay. For attorneys, let me see, who have been with a single firm, but that have changed roles or practice areas frequently within the same organization, how might this be perceived by prospective employers? Is it better to emphasize internal mobility and breadth of experience gained, or could this raise concerns as the lack of specialization? Okay, so let me talk a little bit about specialization. So specialization, and I talked a lot about how important it is. So specialization only matters, in large markets, and large markets, or mid-sized, or larger, or well, let me just say, in specialization only matters in in highly organized. Well, I just say specialization, sorry, matters most in large markets and large firms. So this is the thing about specialization. So if you want to be specialized in a large, if you want to be specialized, it really most of where it matters is in large markets and large firms. So I'll show you. Let me share my screen again. I'll show the screen I was looking at before. Just give me 1 second. So screen. Okay, screen Give me 1 second. I'll make sure. Oh yeah, I know it's screen. Okay. So, this is again the example of real estate lawyers in Reno, Nevada. So we're kind of looking at those. But let's look. Let me just do a U.S. map. All right, so let's look, and I'm just going to come up with some random areas, and let me just see here. I mean, I guess I'll look at Kansas. No, this is not. Actually, I'll look at Pennsylvania. So let's see. Pennsylvania, largest towns, list of cities, largest cities. Cities by population. Sorry, Philadelphia, and we're going down here. So now we're looking at, let's see, Aston, and these are, I mean, I can even look at larger markets, but let's look at Aston, Pennsylvania. So we go to corporate law firms. Corporate law firms. That's it. Corporate law firms. So, so I'm looking at here corporate law firms in Aston, Aston, Pennsylvania. So I just want to show you kind of how this is going to look. So this is a law firm in Aston, Pennsylvania that does corporate law. Let me see, corporate law, contracts. I mean, I get LLC formation. Okay, so if you look at the attorneys there, there's only 2 attorneys. Now, this is not the best example, but the idea here would be that these attorneys in the smaller market are doing a bunch of things. I mean, they're doing all these practice areas. They're doing real estate. They're doing personal injury. They're doing, so the smaller the market and the smaller the firm, the more likely that people are going to be generalists. And so there's nothing wrong with being a generalist in a smaller market like this. And I mean, and again, we looked at cities in Pennsylvania. I mean, there's 180, 200. I mean, they just keep going. So it would be. I mean, it is impossible for anyone to be unemployed if you're and get a job if you were targeting these firms in different cities. Now I'm looking at a very small market right now, but my point is that you can find a job if you're even as a generalist in smaller markets and also smaller firms. So in a major market, if you're looking at smaller firms, it's not going to be that difficult for you to get a job. It's just not. So, and the reason is because when you're because the people are generalists there. The only reason that being a general way can hurt you is if you're trying to get a job in a larger market with larger firms. So larger firms have to be specialists because clients are paying them for specialization. What's interesting is if you were to look at law firms that do corporate related work in say Milwaukee, Wisconsin, those attorneys are going to be doing different types of corporate work. They might do M&A, general corporate. I don't know. They would do pretty much any type of corporate, but that's what they would say. But if you look at the same law firms in New York, they're going to be very specialized in terms of the type of corporate work they do. And so that's something that you need to be concerned. A little bit you need to be, only time you need to be concerned about it. Being a generalist is great. If you're looking at smaller firms and smaller markets, there's nothing wrong with being a generalist. But to answer your question a little more depth, so what do you do if you have 15 different things on your resume that you've done. Well, what I would do is, and what I counsel people to do, why do you need to talk about all the different types of work? If you're applying for a job doing litigation and you've done 2 years of litigation and 2 years of corporate and trust in the States, I would just talk about the litigation work I did. You can say you're an associate and talk about the litigation you would work for a law firm. You don't have to talk about a bunch of different things. I mean, maybe it's not ethical to do so. I mean, if you want, you can mention them, but applying to a larger firm in a larger market, I don't think there's really any reason to mention all these different things on your resume. You just want to be very, very focused, and and that's what they're going to look for. I mean, when a law firm looks at your resume, if they have a litigation opening, they're looking for things that suggest you'll do that's what you want to be, and that's what you want to do, and that's where your focus is. So that's what they'll look for. If you say you do 15 different things, they're going to go with the person. If it's a larger firm in a larger market, or a large firm in a smaller market, they're going to be looking for you to be specialized. I mean, that's what really matters to them the most. I mean, you would do the same thing. But again, there's nothing wrong with being a jack of all trades. I mean, that's what they need in smaller firms and smaller markets, as you just saw. And I want to just come back to this. When I showed you all of the law firms. Let me just see the different just in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's just ludicrous. I mean, there's so many firms that that do that you can apply to. I mean, if somebody was admitted to the Pennsylvania bar and wanted to work, I mean, why wouldn't you try to find jobs in all these different cities? I just don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, you can look for law firms in each of these cities, and for each of them, there's probably hundreds of, for if you just, it's crazy. So, I mean, there are lawyers everywhere. They're on every street corner. So it's just, you need to apply to as many places as you can. And then, again, being a generalist is okay, but it just depends on the size market that you're looking at. So I hope that's helpful. I mean, just, what you're seeing, right? I mean, what you're learning right now with the number of firms that you can apply to, it would change your life. I mean, I don't know why people don't do this. I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's very, very sad. Because people give up practicing law. They think they need to be, going to consulting. They think that there's no jobs. I mean, it's crazy. Okay, next question. In your experience, how do frequent job changes impact an attorney's reputation and marketability within the legal field? Are there specific ways to reframe these experiences positively, perhaps by emphasizing adaptability or to diverse skill sets to potential employers and clients? Yeah, so moving firms, that the best way of doing it is trying to look like you're focused on one practice area. And I think I've answered this in the webinar, but I'm just and then in terms of your reputation, it's not going to impact your reputation, but law firms are going to be more interested in people that are committed to one practice area. One of the things that I recommend my candidates do, and again, this is something that will change the course of your career if you do it. So, say you're at, current firm, and then say you're doing whatever, one practice area. You describe the one practice area and one practice area in a ton of detail. And then, say you have, firm 3, 2, firm 1. So, so what you would do is, if you say you were doing like different things here, like you were, doing different practice areas or whatever like that, then you just go, associate. And, anytime you have a lot of moves, you don't want to draw a lot of attention to it. So you just say associate, just whatever. I mean, you say, you don't need to give any detail as far as I'm concerned, because why would you do that? I mean, it's like, writing a brief or something. Like if you're writing a brief, like you don't want to take people down a rabbit hole so they make a decision against you. You just don't put anything. So why would you, that's what an attorney would do with a witness or something, that they don't want the witness to say something bad, so then they ask them certain questions. You don't give a lot of detail, and then that can help you quite a bit. I mean, because that's what law firms will see. I mean, law firms need to look at your resume and get a sense of one thing that they would hire for it, and that is just can you address how to get over the negative hurdle of frequent job changes? I recently hired a personal coach and makes me more manageable. Is this something to match in an interview? Okay, so I really can't say anything because I guess what I'm doing is coaching. If someone is coaching you, I would make sure that they're actually practicing the term. Well, I don't know, but that they have a lot of experience marketing people to other people, and so I think that whoever your coach is, I hope that that's what they do. I think that no, you don't want to mention that you have a coach in your interview. So no, I mean that's not something you should talk about. I mean, it makes it look like you don't. Um, I mean, a lot of people have coaches, so I'm not criticizing by any stretch of the imagination having a coach. But what I would say is that if you if you are trying to get coaching, you hopefully the coach is addressing these sorts of issues like you're talking about, being more manageable, and making you aware of your weaknesses, and then helping you be focused on your strengths. So I have nothing bad to say about coaches, but that's one thing that I would say. So do you mention the coach? No, you don't want to mention the coach in your interviews. I would recommend that you review this webinar when it's published and talks about job changes. I don't think you want to mention having a coach, because the law firm's going to hire someone that doesn't need help with these issues. Why would they hire someone that has existing issues if they can hire someone that doesn't? So this goes to another issue that I would basically caution you on. So weaknesses. So attorneys should never never bring up personal stuff or weaknesses. So what would be an example of that? So say you used to have a drinking problem and you went to AA and cured it. That's not good. I mean, that is that's something that people can use against you. Let's say you're I don't know, cheated on your spouse. That's something that people will use against you. Like anything, any weakness that you portray to law firms, they will maybe not everyone, but there are people there that will use those weaknesses against you. So you need to be incredibly careful about anything you say or do that would bring up your weaknesses, because that is dangerous. I mean, why would you bring up some sort of weakness? There's another point I want to make real briefly, and it's about interviewing with law firms and how you should act, and things that you say about yourself. Like you never bring up weaknesses in any interviews. You never say that you had problems at your past employer. You never talk negatively about yourself. You never talk about health problems. You never talk about anything, because weaknesses will be used against you. Like health problems, an example. Like, say you had a bad health problem. Of course, that's horrible, and that's not a good thing. But if they're hiring someone that isn't sick, I mean, and as opposed to someone that has been sick and could get sick again, I mean, that's an issue. If you had something horrible happen, like I had one woman who's I remember her boyfriend committed suicide, and I was like, wow, and that's horrible, but that's not something that she want that other law firms want to hear about it, and you're just scared. So again, any weakness you bring up will be used against you when you're looking for a job. Your job, and I think this is actually very uh, common in the legal industry as opposed to other industries. And I think that's because lawyers are expected to be good advocates. And if you're representing a client, you're never supposed to say anything negative about that client, and you're instead supposed to say I don't know, say positive things about the client, never expose the client's weakness. And I think this is something that lawyers have been expected to do for hundreds of years. So if you're a candidate and you start bringing up your weaknesses, that's just destroys your credibility and with the law firm, because they think that if I don't know what it is, but it never works. So you need to be very careful. Now there are certain situations where where weaknesses can actually help you. So I had a candidate that two candidates. One was fired from his job after a year for not passing the bar twice. And I got him an interview with this small law firm of like three people. And the candidate didn't pass the bar, had been at a big firm, like in Delaware, I think Richard Layton or something. And I got him an interview at the small firm, and the small firm interviewed him, and the guy was like, he was shaking during his interview, and but at the same time, like candidate was smart, he'd gone to good law school. He didn't get bad reviews from his firm because they chucked him, but I said, well, this guy had a lot of problems, and he's going to be very appreciative of the opportunity, and he'll work hard, and he doesn't want to fail again. And so he went to the firm, and last I checked, was doing well. So that's just, like, you can sometimes weaknesses can be turned to positives, but in general, like, you just don't want to bring up weaknesses, because if you do, the law firm, can hire someone that doesn't. This question is, are there particular types of firms or roles that are more understanding or accepting of candidates with frequent job changes? Yes. So if you're going to a smaller firm that can attract candidates like you normally, then yes, they're perfectly fine with it. They may pay less money. They may, be smaller, but if they can't find people like you normally, then that's how it works. So I mean, it's like where you went to law school. So if you went to a great law school, your odds of getting into a big firm are much better than if you go to a small law school. So you go to small, not as well known or good law school, you have to work at a smaller firm because that's what the market is. The market's only going to pay you if you go to a smaller firm. I mean, it's just what it is. And so you have to, if you didn't have a lot of job changes, you have to try to go to a firm that will hire someone like you, and that's it. So your other option, I guess, you can always be a contract attorney or something like that. But my advice is just apply to smaller firms, and they will pay less, but you can always move up from there. Okay, the next question. Thank you for all these questions. A lot of questions. Okay, the next question is, let's see, if I move to abroad, leave a firm to move abroad, will it still be a red flag? No. So you can do that if you move abroad. There might be different reasons for that. It could be family or whatever. But if you leave, actually, it's yes and no. if you leave to go abroad, then you know, hopefully there's a reason. So what would a reason be? So if your wife or husband moved abroad, and you need to go there, and they were working there, and then you came back, then you would have a pretty good shot of getting a job with another firm. Maybe not as good, but possibly than the one you're at. So that would be a good reason. If you didn't move for something like family related, and you moved just because you wanted to take some time off or whatever, then yeah, that's probably an issue, because law firms will think that maybe you'll leave again, or you didn't like it, or whatever. So you just have to, be careful. As long as you have a kind of a good story, though, moving abroad isn't as bad as, maybe change. It's not the end of the world, but law firms will need to believe that when you come back, you're going to be committed. The problem with when people do things like they move abroad, or they do, or and they're not practicing law anymore, is that very few people want to come back, and you kind of realize that practicing law isn't that much fun. And yeah, so I mean, and that's what happens most of the time, and not others. 1 second. Okay, so the next question is, when you encounter candidates' serious manageability problems, do you even bother trying to market them to firms? And seems like there would be a risk for reputation. Yeah, so I do, encounter, and not well, pretty often I encounter candidates that do have issues with being managed. Sometimes they will talk very, very negatively about the firm, be angry. Other times they will, they will, um, you know, be very, very high, high in themselves, and think that they're awesome and stuff, and don't necessarily seem, the best candidate. So, yeah, you can market people to firms. I mean, generally, if you explain things like, what they have to do and how they have to behave and what they're doing wrong, then they will actually do okay. So I think anybody is manageable. Sometimes people just need to be talked to. I think that a lot of, the problem with law firms is, and probably, different types of employers, but they can really crush someone's ego, and, say very, very, make them feel, that people go into the profession thinking very highly of themselves, and then all of a sudden, their work's negatively critiqued or whatever, and they become angry, and feel like they're being challenged. And so, those are some manageability issues. But I think most people that have, encounter those issues early in their career, not later, because I think, early in people's career, they don't really understand, what to do. Let me just hear. Give me 1 second. I'm just looking at these questions. So one person asked a question, will the recording be circulated? And that's yeah. Yeah, the recording will go on our website. So yeah, it goes, I think it takes about a week. Let me just see. Okay, next question. What are some common mistakes to avoid when explaining frequent job changes or career pivots on my resume or cover letter? Yeah, so you just do not, you don't discuss it. So, you don't discuss it. That's how I would, recommend it. You just don't discuss it. Like, the less people know, so, that's how I would, deal with it. So, if you, if you have frequent career job changes, you just list the name of the firm and that whatever your title was, and don't do anything like that. You just don't go into a lot of detail. What I recommend, the most important thing with your resume and cover letter is if you have, and mainly the resume. Most people don't read the cover letters. What I recommend for most people is that you, try to make it you look like you're focused on one practice area. So if people see a lot of career moves, then they're more likely, if you stay focused on one practice area, they're less likely to have an issue. Okay, let's see. Okay, next question. How do I best explain a career break due to personal reasons such as health health issues or family responsibilities during an interview? So yeah, so if people ask you about that, you can bring up a health issue. I mean, if you want to. Again, it's a little bit risky because if you were an employer, you probably want to hire someone that was healthy or had been healthy as opposed to someone that's not healthy. But you can definitely bring it up, if you need to, and that certainly is a decent, I mean, something that happens to people, and it can work. I'm not saying it won't, but you have to be a little careful. The next question is about family responsibilities. So, career break due to family responsibilities. I think that that's actually fairly well respected. Women that have taken time off to have children or and taken, are actually it's very respected. It's like people have no problem with it. It's not held against them. And if anything, it might actually help. I mean, I don't know why, but women that have taken time off to have children often are, much better, do better in interviews than similar candidates that didn't. So I think that's okay. So if people ask you that, you can say, I had children or my father got sick or whatever. And if you're applying to a different firm you're at, then you say, I was, I did good work in my other firm, but I thought this was a good opportunity to look at other opportunities. And you can say that way. So, personal reasons are well respected. Health issues are okay. I mean, you can, bring that up if you need to. I think that family responsibilities, people actually do very well talking about that. Health issues, not as much. So, so I'd recommend, if you bring that stuff up if you need to. Okay, let me just see here. If there's any. Okay. Considering the competitive nature of the legal industry, how should an attorney approach discussing career pivots that were made to explore new areas of law or to develop new skills? What are the key points to emphasize to ensure that these transitions are seen as a strength rather than a red flag by hiring managers, especially in prestigious law firms? Okay, so yeah, the big thing to emphasize, and I think I've answered this a bunch of different times already. So I mean, but you asked this question a little before I did. Is that you want to just focus on one practice area. So just focus, focus. So if you're trying to apply to large firms, you just only need to talk about, if you're applying for a job doing mergers and acquisitions, that's all you should talk about. You shouldn't talk about anything else but mergers and acquisitions. You should make sure you take off doing IP law or whatever on your resume. You should just focus on one practice area. If you look like you're focused on one practice area and getting all this experience and in-house and in law firms and stuff, that's much more powerful than doing something else. I mean, that's the most important thing. That's what people are looking for. But if you're talking about a bunch of different things, like why would you hire a 6-year associate to help you with work, that has done 3 different things, as opposed to a 6-year associate that's done only one thing? Like, you would want someone that did only one thing, because if they did only one thing, they're going to be better for your clients, because your clients are going to be, your clients are going to want people that are focused. And the reason all this, I keep coming back to all this focus, and I guess a lot of people, don't understand this, which I'm glad I'm talking about. But the reason you have to have focus is because that's what clients are paying for. Like if you're a client of a law firm, and you have an opening, I mean, you have some sort of need that you need done, like say you have some very sophisticated securities transaction, you're only going to be interested in hiring attorneys that do nothing about that, because the law firms are charging high billable hour rates. And because they're charging high billable hour rates, their clients expect to have experts. And so that's why I keep coming back to this. Like, that's what clients are paying for. Clients are paying for experts. They want people that understand one thing and are very good at it, because if they do, then paying these higher hourly rates makes sense. They need to have someone behind on their team that is only an expert in one thing, because if you spend 5 years learning one practice area, you're going to be you're going to be pretty adept compared to someone that hasn't spent any time doing that. So, so that's my, advice to you, is just make sure that, whatever you do, you try to be focused and you make your resume look focused. I do this with attorneys all the time. So attorneys will come to me and they'll have like 3 different practice areas and so forth on their resume for their current job. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what did you do the most of? And so they make them focus that. And then, what did you do in the past job? And they'll say, well, I did a little bit of this practice area, but a lot of that. And it was like, your resume just needs to say one thing, because, people, need to, look at your resume. Um, and, they need to conclude, that this person does one thing. That's it. So now that's for a large firm, but no large firm is going to hire you if it looks like you're doing 3 different things. The partners are going to want to hire you because they know that you're not up to speed in their practice here. So why would they hire you when they can hire someone who's an expert? The no law firm, and they're going to say, this isn't going to look good to our clients because this person isn't focused. They've done 3 different things over 5 years, so they're really only like a first-year attorney. I mean, this is what is important. So you need to look focused. Now, it's not to say you can't like fib and like, make different things, emphasize some things over others, but you need your resume to look focused if you want to get a job at a large or mid-sized firm. I mean, that has clients that are demanding that. If you want to get a job at a small firm where people are jack of all trades, then you can do that. But other than that, that's about it. Okay, let me see the last question. And everyone on this call, like, you're just like a champion, like learning stuff. This is a long presentation. Okay, during my webinar, you discussed the potential red flags associated with potential job change. Oops, we have in here. Potential red flags associated with frequent job changes. As someone who's had a pivot between different legal roles, how can I best present my varied experience in interviews, avoid perceiving unstable or indecisive? Are there specific strategies? Yeah, so I mean, again, like, you can't lie about your experience, but you put, most recent job, highlight, experience, depending on wherever you want to go, highlight experience in one practice area. And then hopefully, in other jobs, hopefully you can do the same thing, right? So, so that's, what I would recommend, doing. So if the person looks at you and they see a bunch of different jobs, then, if everything's focused in the practice area, then that's helpful. Another strategy that I recommend is just, job 1, job 4, 3, 2, 1. So just don't say anything. So just title, whatever, whatever. That's it. You don't, and company name, I guess, right? Company name. That's it. So you don't say a lot. You don't want to say a lot, because the more you say, like, you're talking about, like, what a lot of people will do is they might have a general counsel or something, or in-house counsel, and we'll talk about all this crap that has nothing to do with one practice area, when all the law firms are going to care about is your experience in that practice area. So, so most recent job, you talk about your experience, and these other jobs, just don't even say anything about them. I knew a guy once that was at, I don't know, like 15 firms in 25 years. And I mean, it was just crazy. So, what I told him to do, I was just, He just basically, had a statement and resume, said, been a, been associate, been, I don't know what he was, but worked at several prominent firms, um, including, and he just, he listed a bunch of them, listed like 3 or 4. And then he just, it was like 1996 to 2020, something like that. About how he worked at all these firms. So he didn't list like the 15 firms. He just said I worked at a bunch of firms, and that actually worked. I thought it was brilliant, and worked really well for him. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being on this webinar. I know this is very long. This will be published shortly, and I hope this was helpful to people. I mean, this is some of the the most crucial information I think that any attorney could get. So I certainly appreciate this. Hopefully it'll make your career much better. Thank you, and bye-bye.